Hello, and welcome to the We Recommend podcast, a movie podcast where every week we recommend a movie for you to watch and then come back here and listen to us discuss. I'm Jesse.
I'm Jason.
I'm Dakota.
And it's a nice day for an exorcism because this week we recommend The Exorcist.
It really is a nice day today.
It is. It's a great day. Ugh.
I'm done with the sun for a while.
If only there's like any 13-year-old girls that need an exorcism. It's a great day for it, you know?
Oh, yeah, good point.
So we have another guest. Two guests. Like, man, we just three straight like special guests in a row. It's Dakota, one of my besties.
Yeah.
So I want to know, when was the first time you watched The Exorcist?
Oh, man.
No, actually.
Mhm.
What's your favorite scary movies? Give me like 2 or 3 that you love.
Well, I mean, obviously, The Thing, which y'all done. That's one of
Yep.
my favorite ones.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna redo it, and we're just gonna have like 5 people on because it's
love
like
that movie
everybody's favorite scary
so
movie.
much. I actually have a fact I read about that online. I love The Conjuring 2. That's one of my favorite
The
ones.
Crooked Man.
Crooked
OG.
Man.
Crooked
The
Man got that
Nun,
dog
just
in.
that's such a good concept right there.
Phallic.
That was so good because it's like a nun, incorruptible, corrupted. Awesome.
Yeah.
And other favorite scary movie? Should I do like a horror comedy?
No, just whatever
Well,
you
I'm trying
love.
to think of like
Like when you think of October, it's October. That's why we're gonna do like 4 or 5 scary movies, like
Alien.
Alien.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Alien. That's one of my.
That
other
was gonna be
favorites.
one that was like, oh, maybe we'll do Alien after this since I got a weekend off coming up, and we'll have Dakota on. But I was like, for some reason, when I think The Exorcist, I'm like, Dakota has like that shirt, right? Or I don't know. I look at you and I'm like, this boy likes Exorcist.
I just like. I like movies, even though I'm not religious. I do like the thought of like possession because it's something that you kind of have to live into your own imagination with it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to imagine how they feel in that moment. Like, how do you fight something that's taking over your whole body?
Like when that boy Pazuzu
yeah.
got her like
Yeah, he got her.
down deep inside of her soul or whatever, and it's like, she's in here, and it's like, but what do you mean she's in there? In what form?
do
Is she
like-
actually in hell? Is she just like in a little like dark room and there's this like demons like
That's an SD
Well,
card.
that's the best part. You have to feel it
imagine
in
it.
yourself. And she does mention like when she's bouncing around, like it's burning. Like
Yeah.
that's like I mean, you're a demon. You're gonna be able to make it feel like someone's burning up because you know she probably raises her body temperature and lowers it and everything like that. It's so I love those just because it's something I love movies that like make you have to use your imagination a little bit,
Mhm.
kind of like in things that don't fully explore it.
Yeah.
Like lore, like with Hellraiser, that first one, you're like, what are these Cenobites, the Cinnabons? What are they doing here? And you're like, oh, like you want to know what's happening with them, but main story is focusing on the dude who came back to life. And you're like, I
Yeah.
just want to know what the main bad guys are.
That is kind of the issue with most horror movie like franchises. It's like, okay, we're explaining way too much about the lore, and it's like the cool thing about the first Halloween is, hey, guess what? We don't know anything, dude. Like this guy, and they do a pretty good job, I guess, throughout that of, well, yeah, I guess that movie they kind of they never really explain Michael and what's the deal with him, but it just gets overly complicated.
He's just dark. Like that's you like because they take the mask off of him at the end of it after he went around and killed everybody. And he's just like sitting there with a knife holding it, and you're like, "What is a child? What just happened?"
What happened? So when was the first time you saw The Exorcist?
I don't know, but it was definitely after high school, so like early 2013 maybe. Me and Tyler were just walking around in Walmart as you did when it used to be 24/7 back in the day. We were just looking for stuff, and we were looking through that like bin of things of DVDs, and picked one up. I was like, "Oh, The Exorcist Uncut. Sure, I'll get it." And we went home and to his place and watched it, and that's when I was like, "Never fully watched this movie." And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is a really good classic horror movie."
Oh,
Even
yeah.
like I love when I go back and watch movies that I've never older movies like that, and they surprise me. Like scenes get me because I'm like, man, this is a classic movie that invented other movies that had all the tropes, and it's still like you did it still better than some modern movies do. Same thing happened when I went back and watched the original Evil Dead with the new one coming out. I was like, this movie kind of scares me a little bit.
It is. It's actually weirdly when you go back and watch the original Evil Dead, it's like, oh, because everybody remembers the second one the most, right? Like I feel like that's the more popular one. Then you watch the original and it's like, there's some intense stuff. That tree scene.
I haven't seen it.
And yeah, it was funny because when I went back and watched the second one of Evil Dead, I was like, oh, this is where all the horror comedy came in. A real sharp turn that he took there. I guess it's just what he wanted to do more.
It's just more Sam Raimi's sense of humor, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's just like that first one. He's like, okay, no of my, like you said, sense of humor. I just want to do this movie, which is really good.
Yeah. It's also funny a little bit, too.
It is. But I think he found like that good combo of like scary, but also like kind of funny with like Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah. Well, he's a very slapstick director, I feel like.
And all that like gross stuff that just happens like in Drag Me to Hell, the vomit and like the hands down her throat. And I'm like,
I love that movie.
It's so good. I love that one too.
So when was the first time you watched it, Jason?
Today, this morning.
You've never seen it until this point?
Right.
I didn't know.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my parents rented it in the 90s on VHS, and I was too afraid. And I ran down the stairs after like 5 minutes.
You didn't like the music, right?
In the beginning, yeah, I was too scared.
The Iraqi, like the classic music you get when you're in the desert in movies. It's like,
well, it was the part when they showed the statues and like the evil looking statues. Although that might have been a different Exorcist movie.
No, there's evil statues in it.
Well, there are evil statues, but what I remember seeing is like statues crying blood. So that could have been a second Exorcist.
Could have been the uncut version.
Could have been the uncut version. I don't know. But I didn't watch it. So today.
I was the same way. Like when I was younger, I could never do horror movies. I don't know why. I was like, I think I had anxiety as a little kid because I'd watch them and I'd just sit there in my room and look and think, they're going to get me. They could come in through here.
Hell
like,
yeah, they can.
I used to live like next to a pond, which is completely different than a lake. Friday the 13th, I was like, he's going to come through the pond and get me. He just comes through open bodies of water.
Yeah, that's his whole deal.
Yeah, that was always why I could never do it. Now I just watch them all the time as I got older.
Ponds are different than lakes?
I mean, do you know? They all connect.
This is the facts that you get when you come to the We Recommend podcast. I didn't mind horror movies when I was growing up, but I couldn't handle Chucky. Like toys coming to life. I was like, excuse me? And they'll kill me? That's not what I signed up for when I bought toys, okay?
Chucky has never, even like when I was scared of like even horror movies, I was really scared of Chucky as a kid, same reason you were, because of it, because I had toys. And like, I don't know who it was when we used to visit when I was younger. It was a family member. They had dolls that like, I don't know if you know what they were. They leaned against the wall.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Those terrified
Those
me.
things
And
are
because
so
of that,
creepy.
it was because of that. I hated Chucky. That's what terrified me.
Oh, the voyeur dolls. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
They're
like,
know
it's
what
just
the
like
point of those were.
dolls of kids. It's like, it's funny because last week we were talking a little bit about the Insidious, and there's a part where you just have a kid sitting and like just standing and looking at the wall. You're like, ooh, did I just see a kid? And then it runs in the background. And that's essentially what those dolls were.
Like Blair Witch.
Like you never know when they're just gonna get up and just like
Jesus
run.
Christ.
My buddy Richard, whenever we were, I'd go to his house all the time, and he had this weird little like cabin that his father built, and it just had creepy stuff in it. It had those dolls that you're talking about, and then it also had like a ventriloquist doll, and I was like, it was so cool to me whenever they built it because I was like, oh, this is awesome. Because I was into that stuff at that point. But I was like, man, if I came here as a kid, I'd be like, I have to get out.
I still want to know what those dolls are for. Who collects that? What makes you think it's fun?
Like, even movies like Leprechaun scared the crap out of me. I couldn't handle when that would come on TV. I'm like, I think I just was, as a small kid, I didn't like scary things that were my size.
Well, yeah, because you're like, it makes it more of like in your world.
But if you think about it now, Child's Play, Leprechaun, those movies are so stupid and hilarious.
My girlfriend, she loves Child's Play. That's her favorite, like, horror stuff. She watches the show that's been coming out with Chucky, which I've chimed in a little bit seeing it, and it actually looks like they're doing a good job of, like, the lore of all the Chucky stuff.
I mean, all the new Chucky movies are actually pretty good.
Because they lean into it. They know what they are.
And stuff. I've actually never seen 2 or 3, which is weird. I've seen the old one and then the most recent ones that were on Netflix and stuff.
Was the third one the Seed of Chucky? Because the second one...
Well, I've seen Seed and Bride. But there's like another older one. I think it's Child Play 2 where he's like hanging out with that kid in like an army jacket or whatever. Isn't he like on an army base on one of them? I can't remember.
I don't know. She would be the one to know that. But I always tell her, I was like, Chucky's not scary. She's like, why? I was like, well, he's like 3 foot tall. And even if he is a doll and he comes to life, what are you going to do? You're just going to drop kick him away. He's just a person. He doesn't have supernatural strength. He's just a person who's inhabiting a body of a 2 foot tall, 3 foot tall thing.
I mean, truthfully, the scariest thing about him is his potty mouth.
I just love his mouth, though. I do love that scene.
Straight rude.
Because she was mentioning it in it where he's like, hey, I'm going to make you talk. I was going to throw him in the fire. And he's like, you stupid fucking bitch. And just starts going nuts. I was like, that's a pretty cool scene.
It's so funny.
I love those little scenes. Like, it's a surprise when you don't know he's going to do something. And he takes advantage of it because it's just like, oh, it's a doll. But I'm like, you're still a weird looking doll. I was like, even if I was back in that day,
fucked up looking doll.
I would not take my eyes off of that thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's the scary thing about Chucky is like, you can't kill him. I mean, you can burn him down, but you kick him, he's like, I'm coming to get you.
If you ever go back and watch it, they're always just like, I can't stop Chucky. It's like, kick him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing of it. The thing in those movies is like, oh, like Chucky's not that bad. It's just the people are stupid.
Yes, but that's all horror movies.
But that's horror movies. Yeah. So I saw this movie for the first time. It was at a party, I guess in high school. And I was always the youngest in like the group. And so, you know, they were closer friends to each other than I was just because, you know, I was younger and I didn't have the same classes with them. So we were just at the house. They put on The Exorcist. I'm watching it. They're all talking. And honestly, when I watched it, I was like, this is the scariest movie of all time. That's this movie. Because I was like, oh, it's kind of funny. It's, there's pea soup. It's, I don't know. It's
all the jokes you've seen about the pea soup.
Obviously, this stuff isn't real or whatever. And like, this is just made up. But this time I watched it, I was like, whoa. I related to the mother. I felt for the daughter. The father had me invested. I was like, oh, he's losing his faith. I hope this guy makes it okay because I didn't remember the ending. And I was just like, holy crap. Like it hit me. I was like, whoa, and then my surround sounds were going off. It sounded like there was wind everywhere behind me. I was hearing crickets outside my house, but I was like, is that in the house? Is that in the movie? I'd hear doors shut outside. I'm like, what the heck was that? I was like, is that the movie or what? I don't know. It got me this time. I was like, oh, this is one of the greatest horror films I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah. They were, a lot of the actors were just so method with doing this. They hurt their bodies.
Yeah.
So they wanted
Well, yeah, because this is famously a cursed film.
Yeah, I looked into that.
They actually, on Shudder, they have a series where they go through like the cursed films of like the cursed horror movies.
Yeah, those are a lot of great shows.
And it's like, they just explain like why this and that happened, of course, because, you know, the set burned down. In this film. Linda Blair, like, what happened to her? She like broke her back or something in this film?
Who's Linda Blair?
Reagan.
So she got hurt
because of the machine.
The mom got hurt too.
Yeah, that's what. So I got that getting hurt. I got that confused with Linda Blair.
Yeah,
when it's the scene where like I guess Reagan knocks her back.
Yeah, she slaps her in the face.
Yeah, and she like hits the ground and she screams. That's her genuine scream because that was her
terrifying.
back that got like. What I remember reading said it broke her back, and then there was something else with where she was doing the whole like back and forth exercise, like shaking up and down.
The contraption, I guess, like some of it, like what we saw was her just flailing and her back getting destroyed. Her neck or her back, something like that.
And it ended up giving her scoliosis later on in life, and like she had bad problems.
I mean, it's insane because it wasn't. I don't think it was supposed to go that hard.
No.
Well, they didn't know.
Yo, that machine, that demon dude, he goes hard,
it's
bro.
Okay. It's just
it sounds like the curse on this film was just before OSHA could get onto
the
film
exactly.
set.
I mean, it really like. So when you watch the cursed films on Shudder, which I do recommend a lot.
Do we recommend it?
It's just very interesting because they do movies like it was one of the Poltergeist movies because like the girl like ended up dying and stuff.
Oh, the little girl.
Yeah.
Was she the Ducky voice? The one like from Land Before Time?
Jesus Christ, I don't remember.
Well,
the one that got murdered by the father.
Yeah, that was the girl who did Ducky's voice in Land Before Time.
Yeah, so that was like part of it, and there was I thought like one of the girls like had it. Like cancer or something or a disease.
Fuck.
I can't remember.
They were like, oh, all these people died from who were a part of the film. And I'm like, well, yeah, like there's a bunch of people who go into films. Like you're going to have like, that just happens. It's life. Like, do you like all the people worked with like at the factory and stuff?
Yeah.
And think about all the people that have like passed there. Like, yeah, I mean, like it's not like hers. It's just life. Life sucks and it happens.
Yeah. Some things just happen on bad movies. And it just so happens that a lot of them happen during movies made in the 70s and 80s because we didn't have the safety that we have now. And now it's like we're getting even more safe, which is good.
Good and bad because now it's just CGI overload.
Yeah. So this is based on a true story.
Oh, yeah.
So it apparently, but instead of being a girl, it was a boy, and it's like in 1949. It's just a 13-year-old boy. But they had to dramatize the story when it became too challenging to get specific details of what happened. The writer of the nonfiction book was William Peter Blatty or Blately.
Blatty, where are you going?
That Blatty is a baddie. God, I wish I didn't say that. That was terrible. So those who spoke to Blatty requested that the character be changed to a girl to help protect like the identity of the boy who actually experienced the possession.
Roland Rowe, apparently.
Yeah, and William Friedkin said that the child grew up having no memory of the incident and went on to have an otherwise stable life, eventually retiring from a long career at NASA.
Huh.
And when The Exorcist was in the early stages of production, Friedkin met with Reverend Robert J. Henley, then president of Georgetown, who secretly passed him an old red folder with the diaries and otherwise like eyewitness accounts of the true life exorcism. Do you guys think the exorcism, like possession's real?
No.
I think I read like, I don't know how true this fact was. I just remembered it as I was watching it last night and forgot to look it up to confirm it. So, fact checkers out there, help out. Is that after this movie, exorcisms apparently skyrocketed.
Yeah, like 70%.
Yeah, it was I was like, oh, because in the movie they mention how, there hasn't been an exorcism performed in X amount of years. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Because after this movie, everyone started getting possessed all of a sudden, and it rose up.
Like, what do you guys think it was? Like, people watched it and was like, oh, that's me. I'm doing this. Well, my bed's floating in the air.
It's the power of imagination. I like with Devin you had last week. He's like, I like to put myself in like if the movie came out and I was in that time and watched it. Like, yeah, if you go back and watch it, there's not a movie like this.
Right.
And that's why there's so much little things about it. Like, I think it was Linda Blair read that so many people, they had to hire security for her 6 days a week.
They were fucking with her.
Because they were like, you're speaking through the devil and stuff. And of course it came out, all the religious people started freaking out saying, yeah. And they were just, and even after the movie came out, it was years she still had it. Still had to have security. And I was like, well, good old times. It's just like child actors probably getting ruined for life to get to do anything else.
Well, I mean, there's just nothing scarier to anybody than like a demon possessing them.
Well, yeah,
right?
Especially back then, everyone was religious, especially.
It's like, I'm sure this.
Man. Yeah, it was like 90% of people.
Probably helped lead to the satanic panic of the 80s.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it didn't hurt.
Yeah. People were like, it's real. So this movie is directed by William Friedkin, who's like a great director. He died this year. RIP. I hope this movie didn't send you to hell, But which I don't think it was, because I mean it's a movie. I could think what I have it in my notes. He was talking about like what he saw from this movie was just like, because he didn't believe in it, but he saw this as a great movie about faith and like questioning your faith and about how it's like what's real and not real and whether it even matters, right? Because like the family, they're not a religious family,
which I didn't get that when I was rewatching. I was like, oh,
because she's like, who put this here? You're putting this in her brain. Because at that point, the doctors are like, maybe we should do a possession if she's thinking that. Maybe it's just in her mind. She thinks she's possessed.
That's why she got mad. My girlfriend's like, why does it matter if it's there? It's like, well, it's because they're not religious and they're telling her it's a psychotic issue. So maybe she's thinking that's why it's happening. It's like, you're the reason she's having this issue now. Even though she shook the whole bed and did all this other stuff.
Yeah, the doctor like mansplained the shit out of her.
He did. And I was just like, no, lady, go with it. You know what happened.
Maybe.
But it's also funny because there was that, her maid or whoever it was there was downstairs when she started screaming. I was like, did she not run up with you? She's just like, Mom's got it. I don't need to see.
Yeah. I mean,
where's your other witness?
If I was an employee of I'd be like, You're here. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Well, I'd just be like, hey, I'm your like second eyewitness, which is funny because like that maid lady just kind of seemed like it was like at the end, she's like, it's a job. I'm not going with y'all.
Hell yeah.
But the other guy,
like the babysitter.
Yeah,
like woman.
The Swedish guy, or was he Swedish?
Was he supposed to be Swedish?
He said he was Swedish.
Oh,
and
Burke.
It's like he kind of disappears, and he seems like he really cares for the family.
Yeah, it definitely makes it seem like this guy's got something to do with it, right? Because why put that Burke just hates this guy? Carl's such a freak.
Burke is I think he's Jewish, and the guy is like,
oh yeah, that makes sense.
A Nazi,
yeah.
and Burke is drunk as fuck.
Oh my god, he was so drunk.
So what William Friedkin said, I did this film because I believe in the story. This film was made by a believer. The film to me is about the mystery of faith. I know it's voted this and that horror film, but to me it's about the mystery of faith, which I think
did a good job because they're all like using all the medical stuff, which is what they do now. They like before this movie, and they'll say, "Oh, it's possession." Like, no, it's a psychotic break, guys. Like the stuff that these people can do is like
there's like film of people running out of theaters, like crying, and
they started bringing vomit bags, like giving it for people, and I was like, oh man, it's because to us that's not a big deal. It's just that, but again, if you sit here and think you've never seen anything like this, and you go watch it, you're like, oh no.
I know, but now think, I mean, like everybody loves movies like this now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the Conjuring series, Insidious. I mean, people are like, the Conjuring movies rip. And it's like, it's just funny now because we have thousands of possession movies, and
yeah, they slap ass.
I kind of always like most of them. Even the bad ones are still like, I'm glad I watched it. I mean, it's not good, but I'm like, it was fun.
We watched, what's the one with Kurt Russell that just came out?
Oh, the priest bodyguard. I don't know.
What was I don't know. We watched that one.
The priest altar boy.
I can't remember.
Yeah, we watched that one recently. I was like, it was okay. I just like the part when they show off like,
I'm Kurt Russell. I'm gonna punch the demon out of you.
Is he wearing a cowboy hat?
I'm gonna fight every demon in this world. Why am I doing I was doing a guy from Snatch voice more than a Kurt Russell voice. What's his name? The Meg guy? Jason Statham.
Oh.
Yeah. Like people in their cars right now are like, why does he
Jason
never
Statham?
remember people? No, it wasn't a good one. So let's just move on. How old do you think Max von Sydow was in this film?
Who's that one?
It was the father of Marin, the guy at the beginning.
He looked old.
He did look old from the very beginning.
They made him look like he was in his 80s or 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He was 43.
Well, they did a good job.
Like his makeup was.
They had a hard life back in the 70s.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, if you're just hanging out in Iraq all the time
and digging that sun.
So did Jason? You served. You were in Iraq, right?
Oh, I went to Afghanistan.
Forget it.
It's close. I mean, it's close.
Well, did you find any like Afghanistan Pazuzus? Yo, where that Pazuzu at, Jason? Where you at?
What that Pazuzu do?
We're all possessed.
Not necessarily,
Okay, well that sucks. I think I'm funny. I don't know.
You do because you laugh at yourself a lot.
I laugh a lot. So, I got a lot of these facts from the Entertainment Weekly thing, and they had a thing on here talking about trying to find the 12-year-old girl. So, Entertainment Weekly said, the main character is a 12-year-old girl, and it's supposed to be an innocent corrupted by evil. So, Friedkin said, I thought for a long time we could never make this film. We couldn't cast it. We threw out a net for about 2,000 young girls, and we couldn't find anybody who could even handle the subject matter. So, from his office at 666 Fifth Avenue in New York, a very ironic name, Friedkin and Blatley had given up and started auditioning actresses who were in their late teens. Then 13-year-old Linda Blair and her mother came in without an appointment.
She's like, I'll take anything.
Yeah, she wanted to get yeah, essentially. And at that point, most of Blair's experience had been from modeling clothes for advertisements. So she sat down with her mother, and Friedkin said, Linda, do you know anything about The Exorcist? And Linda said, yeah, I read the book. It's about a little girl who gets possessed by the devil and then does a whole bunch of bad things.
Hell yeah.
And
she loved it.
He says, I said, like what? What kind of things does she do? And she told him, well, she hits her mother across her face, and she pushes a man out the bedroom window, and she masturbates with a crucifix. This moment
That's just a Tuesday.
This was a moment in the story that caused more angst than any other, and it still remains deeply controversial part of the movie, even though the scene was shot like with a stand-in and it was mainly shot behind her back. He looks over and her mother is smiling. Freaking said, I asked, "Do you know what
so
that
proud
means?"
of my daughter.
And Linda said, "Yes, it's like jerking off, isn't it?" And when the director took a deep breath and asked if she even knew what that meant, she replied, "Sure, don't you?"
I like how it seems like the director took a deep breath, and it's like, oh, like you seem like you're innocent. When like, all the stuff that's coming out about Hollywood now, it's like,
he's like, I gotta ask this kid if she knows what masturbation.
At least he was
means.
chill about it instead of like Weinstein being like, oh really? Do you know what that is? Do you want to show me?
That really turns me on. You're hired.
So she was the only one of all the young girls that he felt would not be destroyed by the experience. Still, he said he tried to keep the set light and jokey during most of the intense scenes to alleviate any residual weirdness for her. And if she was bothered by it during production, the rest of the cast couldn't function, and nor could the crew, he said. In the dailies, you'd see after every take where she was saying the most horrific things, I'd say cut, and then one of the prop men would hand her a milkshake, and she'd be laughing the whole thing to her was just a game.
Awesome.
That's hilarious, because so I don't know, like, the random facts I looked up, they mentioned, so it must have been like kind of like how it was in The Shining with Stanley Kubrick, just like tortured the actress.
He thought he was in like a comedy or something like that, like the kid did.
Yeah, because he protected him.
Yeah.
Well, I read that the director was like, he tried to keep the actors on edge by just randomly shooting guns behind them and stuff.
I read that also.
Dude.
I mean, he tortured, what's her name?
I forgot her name, but
yeah. Whatever her name is.
When I looked at it, I was like, oh, I feel so bad for you, because kept her away from the crew, wouldn't talk to her, and just ruined her like mental state for that. It's like, you didn't have to go that far, man.
I mean, that's just like that's what Stanley Kubrick was known about. I mean, he did like 80 takes. He's just waiting to break you down. Shelley Duvall. That's her name.
That's right.
So when filming The Exorcist, it was filled with many strange tales of accidents and things going wrong, as not only did Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn, who played Reagan's mother, both experience injuries, one of which will come on to like breaking the back and the neck or whatever. But most of the set was also burned down. These and other on-set troubles meant that the movie took twice as long to film as was planned, and it also ended up costing twice its initial budget. So the film ended up being $12 million, and it grossed over $400 million.
Hell yeah.
That's
pretty good.
We got
especially at the
inflation there. You got those numbers?
I mean, it's got to be close to probably $1 billion, right? For inflation. I mean,
you think it burned down because somebody was like, "Where's my gasoline cigars?"
Well, so
I was thinking it like, well, I could see it burned down because the room they're in, and every time they go in there and they could see the breath, he turned that into like
it was super cold, right?
Yeah, he turned it into like a fridge so he could genuinely see their breath.
It was also I think it was just like an older building, and apparently whenever they had the building, there was like birds and stuff in it. So I just don't think it was a well kept house.
Again, OSHA standards are there for a reason now.
Yeah. Any of y'all watch Ghost Adventures?
I watched the one with the Tiger King one.
Yeah, where the horse pees.
I forgot about that.
There's like because in Ghost Adventures they do these like transition shots, and one of them was just like a horse standing in the middle of like a rundown house is peeing. And this was
I never watched these, and it's like, oh, me and girlfriend gonna watch this.
Dakota, you need to watch this. It's the Tiger King episode, and it was just.
Never heard of this.
And we always see those.
He was just like, "What the hell is this? There's just a horse peeing." I'm like, "I'm so sorry that I made you watch this."
I thought it was funny they're going around scanning the room,
pleasure.
and I was like, oh. My girlfriend's like, do you see that he's using it right now? I was like, what is it? It's like, it's a Connect.
Yeah. And all that was just because of Paranormal Activity 4, I think. That's the one that used the Connect in it. I mean, it probably was used before that, and they just got it for the film.
Second one.
The second one they used the Connect?
We just watched the third one, which was the when they're young.
That's like my favorite.
The first three are good. The fourth one's when like they do like she's on her little computer doing her like stream webcam thing with her boyfriend.
It's got a couple good scenes in it, but ultimately it's like we have to change this, and then the marked ones changed it, and I love the marked ones. You seen the marked ones?
We watched the.
They can like teleport and all sorts of crap.
We watched the other one where they're like in the woods and stuff.
The newest one, the Next of Kin,
Yes, that one.
where it's the Amish one. I love that one. I was like, I couldn't believe. I was like, oh, wait, this is actually kind of good. It wasn't originally supposed to be a Paranormal Activity movie. It was, but they changed it to it because it was just it was that movie, and they're like, how can we make more money off this? Oh, let's put Paranormal Activity on it, and then they just end up releasing it on Paramount Plus. But I like that one. It was interesting.
It's nice to say, at least with Paranormal Activity, they're not like awful. They at least like, hey, they're not terrible. Like,
you know what the best part of them is? Some of them are barely even an hour and a half. That's what makes it really nice.
It makes it seem long because I remember when I first watched the first Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, nothing happened.
And I was just at home alone. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, and all these like random banging on the doors happen, and I'm like, I don't like things like when they do the noise when they're like thudding down the hall and it gets closer. That always, I don't know why, it just makes me like tense up.
That made me tense up just now.
Yeah, it just, I don't know what it is about that.
Anytime I hear people thudding around, I'm just like, God, what is all this thudding?
I'm
so sorry, Dakota.
Well, when we because we just got back from Disney, so
Humble brag.
Yeah, I am humble bragging. Magic Kingdom. They
Thanks for the Princess Mononoke.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. They had so many, and I had to not buy the whole store.
Oh, that little Japan store in Epcot.
It was so big. Yeah. I did not expect. Like, we went in there and we kept looking. It's like, it's still going. It's still going. But we, had the dogs. We dropped them off at the whatever boarding
sausage grinder.
No.
They do kind of have like a chowini, so it would be a
that's
it'd be a hot dog. It's a hot dog grinder, yeah.
Oh man,
a vet. You stayed at the vet.
If the girlfriend here, she's like, no, not my baby,
not my cozy.
Even though her dog's like a little demon, but like not having the dogs in the house, I kept hearing noises in the apartment, and I was like, I kept turning my head up, hearing them at night, and I was like, man, when the dogs aren't here, because I just think, oh, it's the animals just moving around. I'm like, they're not out there. What's making that noise? And it just adds more of like paranormal activity, especially when I live like, in the boonies.
Yeah.
If there's a random noise happening, there's no one around for like a mile.
It's like, Jesus, please be like a tree branch falling. Please.
Or the other frog going.
Ooh, I remember watching The Fourth Kind. Do you remember that? It's got Mila Jovovich in it, I think. It's about aliens, essentially.
I don't think I've seen that.
You should watch it. It's relatively good, but there's like a whole thing with aliens and owls. Like, there's some sort of connection. I used to remember what it is. I can't now. But I remember watching that movie, and then I was going to go to Hastings because I was just kind of bored. And that's what we used to do before the, R.I.P. dog. That really bums me out. Because that's where I used to buy all my movies so cheaply.
That place was cool.
But I remember I got in my car, and I drove to the end of the driveway, and there was an owl sitting on a tree. And it like just was looking at me, and I was like, I'm going back inside the house. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna get abducted or whatever.
Well, like, you hear, I don't know if it's all owls, but they make that random like screeching noise at night. That would terrify anybody.
Oh, dude, I watched this video of, it was just people having birds fly like in this really quiet room, and they had like hawks and eagles and whatever, and they were so loud, and then you got to the owl, and it was flapping, but it was completely silent. It was so weird. Let's get back on topic.
That just made owls way more terrifying.
Real quick, one more thing. One of my favorite theater experiences was actually Paranormal Activity. I saw it like the 12 o'clock show one time.
That's cool.
And it was just, everybody was so into it. And it was so scary. It was great.
Was it actually quiet? Because I feel like today nobody is ever quiet in theaters.
Everybody was so engrossed to it. It's just once that rumbling started, everybody's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're going to get scared.
I don't know what one other thing in Paranormal Activity, we had to tell people that it didn't really happen. I was like, guys, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Why are you?
I know. And at that point, it's like, Blair Witch already happened. So,
yeah.
So, y'all ready?
Yeah.
We spent like 30 minutes just chit-chatting.
It
was great. So, let's just go over through like the four main characters real quick. So directed by William Friedkin. He did a movie, The French Connection, Sorcerer. He's really well-liked director. Ellen Burstyn plays Chris McNeil. Linda Blair is Reagan McNeil. You got Max von Sydow, who's Father Merrin, the older guy. And then you have Jason Miller, who plays Father Karras. I love Father Karras, dude.
Yeah,
when he's doing like, what do they say? Whenever they're screaming at her and throwing the holy water, I'm totally blanking. The power of Christ compels you. If you look at the Father Karras's face during it, he's like, the Father of Christ compels you.
He's into it.
Apparently, they had Marlon Brando want to do that role, but they thought with him having in it, it would take away from like the film some.
Yeah, I could see that because he's so popular. And I mean,
Probably wouldn't have done as good a job either.
He probably wouldn't. He needed an earbud for them to say his lines before he could do it. Man, there was something else I wanted to say, and oh, y'all ever watch This Is the End?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the part where Jonah Hill's character gets possessed, and they're gonna do the Exorcist on him, and they're like, the power of Christ compels you, and he's like, oh, does it, Jay? Does the power of Christ compel me? Does it? It's so funny. That just made me think of that. All right, so let's hop into the plot. So if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. And we've already spoiled some of it anyway, so not just sit back and listen to us talk about it, all right? Ooh.
Or don't.
Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody. I have to ask one more question because I meant to ask it last week. Anybody ever had like any ghost or like scary things happen to him before?
I've been scared by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
But like no ghost experiences or
Halloween
anything?
Horror Nights is pretty scary.
Yeah, I love that. Halloween, that place is-
Closest thing I could ever say, and it's funny because it just sticks out in my head, is I was just on my bed one night and I was laying there watching something, and it felt like all of a sudden, and I could feel it like when someone steps on the bed,
Mhm.
it felt like someone stepped on it, and I looked behind me and looked at it, and I got up out of the bed and was like, that happened. That was weird.
That's something I can't explain.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally couldn't. I was just like, it
No
felt like someone
dogs
had
or
stepped on
anything
it.
there? You didn't have anybody else in there?
No,
No
because that's
dog?
why it
You
was
didn't
so
have your dog?
strange. I was like, because it felt like someone stepped on the
Yeah,
bed, and
yeah.
I know exactly what that like. So I used to step on my bed to get into it,
Yeah.
and that was the closest I've ever gotten.
That's
Yeah,
creepy.
no, I did have sleep paralysis once, and that was
Jesus
the scariest thing that's
Christ.
ever fucking happened to me.
I just want to know, like, sleep paralysis is one of the craziest things. Like, I
I
mean,
was
everybody
scared.
experiences similar things. There's different versions of sleep paralysis that people experience, and it's like, how?
I was scared to fucking death. I'll tell you.
I remember there was
Is it similar to like because I mean I have mentioned like the dreams I used to have when I was a little bit younger.
mhm.
There, and my buddy Tyler can attest to this one time. It's like when you're half awake and half asleep. So like I'm aware of what's around me, but there's a dream happening, and I used to have my bed against the wall, and I was just laying there asleep, but then you remember the spiders that were in Jumanji?
Mhm.
It was that spider.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And I was half asleep. I remember putting my head up and looking, but the wall's gone, and in the distance that spider is staring at me, which I don't like spiders.
Hell yeah.
And I was just sitting there staring at it. And I was like, it's gonna come after me if I move. And then it came at me, and I jumped out of the bed. And the girl I was dating at the time, I was like, it's gonna get me, it's gonna get me. And she's like, what's going on? What's going on? My room is completely dark.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's happening? I was like, a spider, it's gonna get me. It's gonna get me. And in my head, I was standing up and talking to her, but I still saw the spider on the bed. And she's like, what is going on? What's happening? I was like, the spider's gonna get me. And she's like, you turn the light on. And I was like, I can't move, it's gonna get me. It's gonna get me. And she's like, you're asleep. Wake up. When she said you're asleep, I kind of finally flicked the light on. I turned the light on, and I just woke up and I was like, oh. And I was dreaming. She's like, Jesus Christ, you scared me. Like, we're dead asleep.
Yeah, that's so wild.
What?
I remember, so there was a friend I had growing up. She was talking about how she was sleeping in her room, and she's telling people at church I guess the same day or the next day or whatever. And she was saying, like, I think someone broke into our house because she said, like, this redheaded guy, and he looked like my friend Richard. She said, because he had red head and whatever, and just like came in and was like smiling at her.
Ugh.
And she was just like, I guess she was able to move because she said that she like put the blanket on her.
Jesus.
And then she like, she uncovers herself with a blanket and it's gone. And, like the dude that we knew wasn't there because I was hanging out with him. So, but then like years later, I'm talking about like 10 years later, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about sleep paralysis. And this one guy was like, oh yeah, I've had that once. And he's like, yeah, it's this one where like there's this redheaded guy and he was just in my room
Whoa.
staring at me and smiling. And I was like, I just was driving and I was like,
Oh, no.
wait a second. I've never heard that type of sleep paralysis story. And I'm like, this person had the exact same dream. I was like, what is wrong with our brains? Why does it do this?
All the stuff we get in it now, and you dream, and it's nuts.
Yeah, mine was my sister. It was my younger sister, but instead of having a face, it was just a black void.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
And you like couldn't move or anything?
No, I couldn't move.
That's so wild.
I remember this one. I didn't know this. So my brother was staying at my place, which he didn't live with us. He just would stay some nights, and all of a sudden I hear middle of the night. I'm like half asleep. I just hear, and I was like, I look down the hall. And I'm like, what is going on? And
Brother's
then I
just
just went to
having the
sleep.
best orgasm of his life.
Well, I wake up next day and my mom's like, what? I thought I heard moaning. She said, oh, yeah, when we were, before you were born, because my brother's like 20 years older than me, we had someone break into the house inside the window up, and I was like, oh. So he had nightmares about that for a long time. I was like, well, he still has them because he was just moaning in his sleep one night. I wish I had known that because it freaked me out.
Yeah. I guess I only had, so there's been 2 instances in my life where there was something where I was like, I can't explain this. There was one when I was younger. I used to stay up super late as a kid, especially in the summers, and just watch movies. And, I was a little kid. I was coming into age or whatever, I was
Red Shoe Diaries.
So that's why.
No, well, it's just like I'd look for R-rated movies that.
Probably White Shoe Diaries.
Because, like they have like the rating whenever you're going through like stars and stuff. And it'd be like, it's like, oh, this movie has an N in it. That means nudity.
Damn,
oh my God. I have to watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to masturbate or anything at this point. I was too young, or whatever. But so I go get a drink from the kitchen, and it was an older trailer that we had, and so you could see. So I always slept on the couch. I just preferred to watch TV and fall asleep. Still do. And so I go to get something to drink, and I look over. Everything's kind of dark, but there's like a lamp on, so I could see in. And it was around Christmas time, and we had this huge like little open space that leads into one part of the living room to the other part because we kind of like modified our trailer and we just built onto it. And so we had a Christmas card holder on it. And there was this hung at the top and it went all the way around and the things could flap up. Like if you just like picked it up, it could flap. So I was going to get something from the refrigerator and I remember it so specifically. I hear a noise, kind of like walking or like running almost. And then I look over and the Christmas card holder is like flown up and back down. And I was like, okay, I didn't see anybody, but the bathroom was that way. And I thought my parents' room was just right off the living room, right where the TV was. And I was like, oh, it's probably just like, I don't know, they had to go to the bathroom bad. So I go and lay down on the couch and I'm like, I'm terrified. I got the blankets and I'm just waiting for somebody to come out of the bathroom.
I wouldn't have slept. I would have went into my parents' room.
It was at least a whole nother movie like played and no one ever came out of the bathroom. And like I didn't have enough guts to go look, and I'm like, but no.
You mean what everyone should do when there's something like that happens?
So I just like stayed there, and eventually I fell asleep. But I never mentioned it again. But it was one of the scariest moments, like as a kid.
Think about how you said I never mentioned it again, and then you watch a horror movie, and you're like, why would they not mention that? It's like, oh, you just don't.
It was just
I don't know why.
I never was like ever scared again of the house or anything. But, we found like Civil War, like little swords and stuff around our house.
That's cool.
Stuff like that. Because we always had them hanging up on our,
That's fucking
like
sweet,
on our walls
man.
and stuff. We didn't have a mantle. And then there was one other one. So, they have the place where they have the theater, like in T-Town and stuff. So, like, we went there and it was just me, Richard, and like the guy that was directing a play there. And we just kind of went there to help out. And the place is supposed to be haunted, right? And they've told the stories 1,000 times, but it was only us 3 there. We had to go upstairs into like the little attic where they have a bunch of props.
Oh, you're talking about okay. I thought you were talking about the movie theater.
No, like where they do plays and stuff.
Yeah.
So we went upstairs and we walk up there and we're just like, oh, this place isn't haunted, whatever, because that's how we talked. And so we go up there and we immediately get up there and we just hear like a noise of something being either slammed or like sat down really hard. We're just like, we kind of just look at each other like, what was that? We immediately went back downstairs because there's only 3 of us in there and it was too high up. The guy would have to like, because like theaters, like they're really tall. And we just never knew what it was. There were only 3. I mean, maybe it was like a rat or something, but it was like the timing of it was way too crazy.
That's awesome.
I just remembered this wasn't like a paranormal thing. It was just something funny. My mom went into the office to work, and me and my buddy were hanging out. And we went in with her just to chill around, and she worked like so it had like a normal office part and then like the factory part that they did. We were just walking around, so we walked back into the factory part, and we didn't know there was a PA system back there, and she did. So she just gets on the brrr, and we all it took was just a brrr, and we both booked it out of there. We come back in there, and I remember. I just remember both of us running. And we come in that office, and she's sitting there laughing so much, and we just laughed at her. It's like that was good. Man. You got us.
Yeah.
Can't wait to scare my kids like that.
Every parent says that ever.
All right, so now we are actually getting into the movie. Sorry, it's been like 50 minutes of us just chit-chatting.
So I want you to do the music of the intro.
I can't. So the film starts off in Iraq. We see that people are excavating the desert. We see an old man who looks like he's 1,000 years old. We'll later find out this is Father Merrin. He's told that I guess the people excavating found something. Like there's a small metal necklace, there's some like arrowheads and stuff like that. And then he digs a little further and it takes like 10 minutes for him to get out. And it's just like a small statue head. And I'm assuming that the little necklace was what's keeping the demon at bay inside that hole, I'm assuming, because it's from what we see later.
That's what
the demon can't get inside of Father Karras until she takes it off of him.
Well, I thought it was also, part later is because he says he invites it in.
Well, yeah, but like you could see that on Reagan's face. He wants to go in on there, and then like the demon like rips it off of him, and then he's able to jump into him. So I'm assuming this is what was holding the demon at bay.
Oh, okay.
And so like this opening takes so long.
It does take a long time.
It's a lot of it's just him walking. I know it's supposed to be.
I did enjoy it though.
We're supposed to be getting uneasy by like.
Foreigners.
Foreigners, essentially.
Was this shot like on location? Because
I have no idea.
I don't know. I was just sitting there watching it, like, oh yeah, this
seemed pretty legit.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, everything looks so real. It's like, man, I miss those days of like going back and being shot on location. I know it's cheaper just to build sets and stuff, but
yeah, I know it looks great. We see Father Merrin. He looks old and sick as crap. He's like eating a pill or whatever.
Yeah, these like weird looking pills. We never know what they're for.
We see various shots of him walking around. It's literally like 10 minutes of it. He goes into this place to kind of look at the stuff he found. And as soon as he picks up the little statue head, like the clock stops. One of the guys says evil against evil. Literally, there's like no explanation of anything that's going on.
I put that down on the note. It's like I just put a question mark. It's not going to mention the clock. Not going to say nothing. There's another person in there.
I didn't notice the clock, honestly.
The clock stopping was great. It's like, ee. So we learn that Father Merrin is leaving Iraq. He is something that he has to do. We don't understand anything about this character or what he's doing. There's like a long shot of him walking. He almost gets run over by a horse. The creepy looking lady on there. He goes to some place, some giant like stone place, and he sees a giant statue.
Does this statue have a big cock?
I don't know.
I thought I saw a fucking rock hard demon cock on it.
Jason, I just wasn't checking this guy's package.
I mean, for a later scene, it makes sense for what they did to that.
That one statue.
Yeah.
Yeah. The shot of the demon. The demon's name is supposed to be Pazuzu. We don't learn it in this film, but we learn it in other films, and it's in the books or whatever. And then we come to Washington D.C. We are with the women. We are with the woman, Chris McNeil. She hears a noise coming from her attic, which is...
Update. It's got a cock.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
I'll have to look it up later when I'm alone. So she's hearing a noise coming from her attic.
Noise.
And she checks on her daughter. We meet Reagan. She's just laying down. The window's open. And I'm sure that won't happen again. I'm sure that's the last time the window stays open.
Can we talk about the noise? Like, if I hear that kind of noise...
You going to go investigate?
No. Yeah. I'm going to be like, that's not rats.
Yeah,
it's definitely not rats.
It was just like...
It seemed like they'd already been having a problem with rats.
What rat makes that noise?
Out.
Splinter?
Yeah, he's a big one. And he practices a lot.
And then we get to meet some of like the little helpers around the house. We see like the maid. We see crazy old groundskeeper Carl. She's like, I think there's rats in there. It's too clean. We don't have rats. It's like, well, I heard something. It's like, no rats. Then just like, can you put rat traps up there? He's like, okay, I'll go to the store. The store's not open. We'll see about that. Then they're both like, it's not. It's like,
yeah, it was a weird little interaction. He's like, I just want to get out of here because you made me mad.
It's so weird. So there's so much about this movie that makes you like, that kind of weirds you out. Like things that don't seem to make sense. Like the stuff with the guy just walking around. You're seeing things like, what are we doing? Why are we here? You see this weird, like the thing in the attic. You're like, Okay, are we not going to check it out? And then she's like, we got rats. And then Carl's weird. And it's like, well, why is Carl so weird? Like, what's like, you're already getting like weirded out by the film because it's like nothing's being explained. Everyone's acting kind of weird.
Everything's a little off kilter.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta make you feel unsettled.
Yeah. We see that Chris she's an actress. She has a friendly relationship with the director, Burke. He's an OG, love the guy. We see a little scene from the movie. It's just a very random little scene. It's just like,
she's
about activists' rights or something.
I love
and, like teaching.
I love that the actress Chris. She's like, "Do we really need this scene?" She does it. And it's like one shot and takes like 5 seconds. Like, cut. That's the wrap of the movie. I'm like, you're really just trying to say we don't need this? That's like, I don't know, silly. And there's like this weird shot of Father Karras is like laughing while the director and Chris are talking. It's really weird.
I just thought maybe he was a fan of her.
Yeah.
You talk about how like you also see I'm not good with the name. The other priest is sitting there staring at him like big smile on his face. Like,
that's Father Karras.
Karras. Yeah. So you also look around like, oh man, he looks weird. But then if you also kind of just look to the left, like there's another guy there who's just creepy. Yeah. Smells like it's like you're right. Like everyone here is so weird.
There's so much weird stuff. Like everybody in the audience has this like weird faces, and I didn't find anything about like William Friedkin saying anything about it. Like, oh, just that we did this. It's might be. So Chris walks home. She's seeing like some nuns. She's kind of getting a little weird. It seems to be Halloween time because there's some kids running in some costumes.
That's when the iconic piano music starts.
Dude. Like at first I was like, wait, is it about to play Halloween?
Like, it was...
and then, but then I was like, oh no, that's right. This song rips. She sees Father Karras. He's like almost kind of having an argument with another priest. We see she's back home. She has an invitation to the White House in a couple weeks. We meet Reagan officially. She's this cute young kid. She seems super innocent. She wants a horse. She gets some candy or something and being chased by the mom. It's a very cute relationship we see. But sadly, she ate some candy and is probably going to get possessed now.
So, like, one thing I was sitting here as I was watching, because, there's later interactions that happen. I was like, this girl is supposed to be 12, right? She's kind of acting like she's younger. Like, to me, it felt like she was acting more of
she's definitely playing up the innocence.
Yeah, I felt like that. I was like, man, it just feels like you're a lot younger than you actually are.
I think it's one of those things because her mom probably moves around a lot. The father's not there.
I feel like she should be a lot more rebellious because of like she's got a lot of stuff. Dad's not here. We move a lot. I can't make any friends. Yeah. I feel like she shouldn't be as innocent as she is.
But all this loneliness is what kind of leads to the possession. We are with Father Karras. God, I'm gonna keep messing up. We see him. He's like standing in a subway station. A homeless man asks him for money. This will come into play a little later, and he gets scared for some reason. I don't know what
it was about that scene, but like that made my girlfriend laugh. She's like, "Can you rewind it?" She was just like, "I'm a former altar boy priest. I'm also Catholic." She's like, "Why does that matter?" And I was like, "Well, you do realize there's so many subsections of just Christianity alone."
You're a little old for my taste.
That's exactly what I was thinking. He's like, "I'm a former altar boy. You know."
I think it was supposed to be one of those things where it's just like, hey, give me money. Like,
I'm one of you. We should have like good, you should feel sympathy for me.
Yeah. So we learned that he's taking a train down to New York. He's there to visit his mother. His mom is older. All she does is sit around and listen to the radio. She says, Deemy. Love this old lady. She's so cute.
Cooks for him still.
Yeah. He wants her to go to somewhere safer because she lives in like this rundown street. It's like the 70s in New York. There's like trash
I was like,
everywhere.
where does this priest live? And like, oh, that's where the mom lives.
Yeah,
they took a vow of being poor.
Yeah, you don't take like riches or something like that.
Well, later in the film, we'll get to it actually. But he wants her to leave, but she's like, I won't leave. This is my home.
Classic old people.
Yeah. His mother detects something is wrong with Father Karras, and she falls asleep, and then he leaves.
What? So isn't there an earlier part of the scene where he talks about like, I can't do this anymore type of thing?
That's a little later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're back with Chris and so shut up. Just kidding.
He gave me the meanest death glare.
I did give him. I know. That's why I said. I was like, man, I just gave you such a glare for some reason. We are back with Chris and Reagan. We learned that Reagan, she's alone all the time. She's down in like this basement. She's been playing with a Ouija board. Chris wants to play, and as soon as she tries to touch the planchette, it moves away from her.
Cool.
I'm glad you know that name. That was very good to just know that because I didn't know that.
Bro,
the pointy thing.
This is like this is what I do. I just listen to podcasts
you can say
about all
planchette,
this.
but you're having a hard time with.
Shut up. So, and like the mom's like, oh, if you don't want me to play, and it's like, lady, you're looking at it, it moved by itself.
Well, I could see, like, I tried to think of that moment. You saw it move, but I could see where she thinks like her daughter had her hands there because the way you stick it, you could like she could have flicked it.
Well,
like,
yeah, and like she doesn't believe in this stuff, so she's gonna obviously look for like a better,
That's
an
a
actual
cool sleight
answer.
of hand trick to learn.
Yeah.
Mm.
So Reagan tells her that it was Captain Howdy. She tries to talk to Howdy, but Howdy doesn't answer, and he's just being rude. So let's go ahead and get here. Obviously, the Ouija board is how Pazuzu gets her, right?
What?
So do you think that she was playing with the Ouija board around when they this is how I assume. She was playing with the Ouija board when he unearthed the demon, and that's how it. She just got unlucky.
Because you can't think that's the only Ouija board in all of the world being used.
Also,
the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay.
The dude found the little statue outside the house. So,
oh well, that's the stuff that she makes, like her little sculpture she makes.
Because she sculpted. Because when
Bro, did you watch the movie?
When she
I'm
first, the
just
mom
kidding,
first
I'm
comes
not
down,
gonna
she
do that
made like
again.
that turkey thing, and she's like, "Oh, we gotta let this dry. It's still wet." That was just show that she sculpts and does
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's kind of how I figured because it doesn't really explain it. Like
I
how
just
it
felt
happened.
bad. I was like, all you
happened
did,
so
like, someone's
fast.
like, oh, it's just a Ouija board. Cool, did that. And she didn't do, like, because in the other ones, it's like, you have to say, hello, spirits. If you don't say goodbye, that's how they get you. She's just messing with it. And, like, I was like, this is what causes all this? She just was like, what?
Well, I mean, honestly, like if we were to be possessed by a demon, I don't think they're gonna play by rules.
I
Right?
think-
Obviously, that's what makes it good because there's no other ones that establish rules. This one's just like bare bones. You messing
like-
with it, you're in trouble.
I think back then, like everybody just absolutely 100% knew that Ouija boards were evil.
Well, this
tunnels
probably
from
added
hell.
to it as
Yeah,
well.
and plus all the rules were made by Hasbro. So it's not
Which
like
is still funny that Hasbro did it.
it's not like I mean, I guess it's probably late. Like honestly, I mean, Ouija boards probably existed before, but everything that everybody thought that they were doing was to conjure demons or whatever.
Fuck yeah.
It's just made up. It could just be playing with a board like this in general, whether you're saying any type of ritual or whatever.
Right.
could
you
be-
touch that.
Oh, it's like the whole
Yeah, I mean-
saying Bloody Mary in the mirror 3 times.
I mean, you don't even need a
Yes.
Ouija board. If you're just like, I want a demon to be here, I don't.
Well, she did.
So, and it's like, oh, well, the demon's like, okay, here I am. They call me Captain Howdy.
Oh.
I like to think he has like Woody's voice.
Yeah,
That's
no,
exactly
that's what I
what
thought too. I was like,
Howdy,
where's
partner.
Woody?
So, there's a cute scene between the two while like they're getting ready for bed. Like this was the scene where I was like, I'm 100% invested in the mother and daughter relationship because Linda Blair crushes in this
She
movie.
Yeah,
does
dude.
such a good
Like
job.
even when she's doing her innocent thing, she's like she's got shifty eyes. She's acting
Yes.
like a kid that just is like, I'm just laying in bed, but I'm also kind of squirmy, and she's
Mhm.
just like biting her lips and like just like messing with her lips and just I don't know. There's just like this,
The thing that kids do because
and there just seems like to be like I don't know chemistry between the two actors, and then
Yeah.
the mother's just crushing as a mother.
She was so good.
We learned that tomorrow is Reagan's B day. Reagan is telling her that she can bring Burke, and there's like this weird interaction between them. It's like, I know that you like him. It's like, are y'all gonna get married? Mom's like, it's like, I love your father. Like, it's like, I don't know. There's just a bunch of stuff like that. I assume that because I don't think there's supposed to be any reason that Reagan should know that there might be a relationship between.
it's just the actor-director thing,
Burke-
so she might be confusing that with.
I think the demon told her. I think this is
Oh,
supposed to
man.
put
Well,
it.
I mean, she's on set with her. She like, there's that.
I know, but I think they're supposed to be like putting because like supposedly demons are supposed to attack you like if you're weak or if you're depressed and things like that.
Tell you shit
I-
you're not supposed to know, or
I
that
thi-
they're not supposed
yeah,
to
and I
know.
think this is just like it's almost trying to pushing like things like making her kind of sad. It's like, oh, she's wanting to get with this guy and not be with the father. That's just what I'm taking from it.
Gotcha.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm looking into it. Now we're with Father Karras. He is talking to Tom, his boss, like Father Tom, I guess. we learn that he wants to be reassigned because he just can't handle the stress of the job because he's a
I don't blame him.
He's a priest. He's a psychiatrist for priests.
Yeah.
Which is like, Jesus Christ.
I love how that one, like, it's maybe later on, but that one guy's like, if you would have been a psychiatrist, you would have been rich as hell.
Yeah,
he's like,
his uncle.
I don't blame him for it. It's like, it's so much, like, because you got to think, being a psychiatrist, and like, he seems to deal with like the extreme cases.
Yeah, and he's dealing with a Catholic priest, and we know what he might be hearing.
Yeah.
Zoinks. But we also learned that because of this, he's starting to lose his faith through this job.
I guess I missed that part. I didn't know he was like, I thought he was just like, I've got my mom I've got to worry about. I need to, this is also like, it's just a mental drain on him also.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was like a loss of faith thing. I was just like, I need
it's just
to
like this quick line where he's like, I'm losing my faith, and then it kind of cuts.
Yeah, he don't want to do this anymore.
We see Chris, she's talking to an operator. It's the day of Reagan's birthday. She's just freaking out because the father is not calling or anything, but it's also, he's another country away, could be sleeping.
Like, it was how far, like, he was in Rome,
Italy.
So like how far away it was. To be fair, the father was very rude. He could have done that, but she also goes like full, I've been on the phone for 20 minutes. I was like, only 20 minutes.
I felt bad for the operator. The operator's like, what do you want me to do? Nobody's answering.
I know.
I guess it also shows how like she's kind of like alone.
Yeah.
Still, and like her dad doesn't care, so she leans more and she probably went back like, talk to Captain Howdy.
Yeah, and because you see that Reagan's super sad and she just goes to lay down. So Chris gets a call. It's late at night. I guess she's getting a call from the director and she needs to go work on a scene or whatever. We see Reagan is in her bed. She tells her like in her mom's bed, and she's like, "Oh, I couldn't sleep. My bed was shaking." Then we hear the noise in the attic again, and this time she decides to go up and investigate. Sorry, not doing it.
No,
just saying. While doing
multiple people with me.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, okay, we're just gonna forget about it tonight. We're gonna go try to check in the morning. While doing this, there's a cut to Reagan looking scared or distant. Like it's one of the great things where she's such a great face of being scared and like confused almost. When she goes up there, she doesn't see anything. Like all the traps are fine. Then her candle blows up and Carl comes in.
Cool.
You see, it's clean and there's no rats.
How I was like, she's like, oh, no big deal. It's like, not even if you don't believe in possession stuff. Lady, I think you might have a gas leak somewhere.
Yeah, right. So we see Karis goes to a mental hospital. We see that the uncle's there. He tells him that the mother's in distress. She won't let anyone touch her. She won't talk to doctors. The uncle puts the blame on Karis for becoming a priest instead of becoming a famous psychiatrist, and could put her up in like a penthouse or something.
I couldn't understand a lot of it. I almost put captions on.
I did.
You could understand.
I couldn't realize like what. I was like, he's blaming him for something, but like, dude, what? What are you doing?
Yeah, and then he goes to try to talk to the mom, but the mom is not having it. Then we see him boxing his anger out because he used to be a boxer. So back at Chris's house, we see she's having a party. Burke is super drunk. Burke's calling Carl a Nazi bastard.
He did a good job of being a drunk, I gotta say.
Yeah, he crushes. Chris is asking about Karis because we learned that his mother passed away. And there's just a nonchalant jump in time. It's just like another part of the film that's like, it's like, okay, so how many weeks is it? We don't know. It's just, we're assuming it's a few weeks. It just makes you more uncomfortable because like, oh, okay,
was
this
this
is
the
where we're at.
party?
Yeah, this is the party. And so Burke is still berating Carl.
Him.
Carl just attacks him, starts choking him. Burke's throwing a glass down, just yelling now.
Now it's a party.
I mean, to be like, in that scene that happened, they pull him off of him. I leaned over and I was like, so was he a Nazi? She's like, no, he's just, he's like, I guess if you get constantly berated, because I know they had like a Swedish, it was a big thing then, especially because he's probably alive around that time. It's like, how, like, it's still a big offense at that time to be called a Nazi. And he's like, know what I did against and what they did? How dare you call me that just because I see, like, I'm there. I would hate too.
Just because I'm European doesn't make me a Nazi.
Back in the day when people used to hate to be called a Nazi.
Yeah. Yikes. And then Chris goes to check on Reagan in the bedroom. She seems off. I guess she's been sick, supposedly.
But she had her later walking around that party.
I guess she was feeling all right.
Well,
they don't know what's wrong with her.
I felt so awkward just because, like, all the stuff that's come out about like child actors now, and seeing her just walk around with all these people, I'm just like, There's someone down there who's just like, hey.
Let's hope not, though. I don't know if anything's ever come out about it. I never looked it up.
Oh, no, I didn't mean like. I just meant like what you know now
Yeah.
about all these child actors who said stuff like that one kid from Lost Boys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Goonies, yeah.
Yeah. I feel so bad for him, but it's just in that moment, I was like, knowledge sucks sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Bummer. So Chris helps Burke out the door. She joins everybody in singing, and then Reagan comes downstairs and says, "You're gonna die up there," and then pees on the floor.
That guy never shows up again, does he?
No. Maybe he died. Maybe there's a cut scene that he died.
Not a good
Never come
job,
back to the
Demon. You
pee-pee
suck
house.
at calling it out.
Well, maybe he took a flight on a plane and died. Who
I
knows?
also don't understand the pee part. I also just don't like that part because I don't like.
So uncomfortable.
I don't like
Makes me feel bad.
those type of bodily functions like pee and like fart jokes or poop jokes and stuff like
Snake,
that.
Get away from the mic.
He wants to put his opinion in.
talk,
I don't
buddy?
like those in movies. It's just my personal preference. Anytime I see it, like, I'm like, oh, here's a funny scene. Someone farts or something. I'm like, that's not funny to me. It's one of those things I've never liked, and it just turns.
Oh man,
I don't like
farting's
this scene.
hilarious.
I know everyone else laughs at it. I'm just sitting here, stone cold face, like I'm. ready for
Apparently,
this
they
to be
have
over.
a cut of Wet Hot American Summer, like the movie, where it's just a fart cut,
That's funny.
and it's where they just add random farts throughout the movie for
I
no
would
reason.
hate that so
That's
much. I just
kinda
would
funny.
never
I
watch
want to
that.
watch it so bad. So they take her back to bed. Chris is saying it's just her nerves. She's sick.
Well, you missed a scene there that was like we talked about this earlier about like the director's cut. There's a scene like that they took her to because they said take your medicine, right?
Mhm.
And for your nerves, she apparently was at the hospital earlier, and they did like a scan on her and said, "Oh, it's just like you're having issues with your head, and like this is the medicine." I feel like that was something we could have used because even my girlfriend was like, where was the hospital part? When did that happen? That's when I connected. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that was the director's cut I watched.
It's part of like the jump. They obviously cut some things out between seeing the mother and the mother dying.
I want to say I like the mom like taking care of her kid. You know, it was a little weird, but you know, it's like she's like, "Why'd you do that, honey?" She's actively like caring about her kid, not just like brushing it off as they all do.
Yeah.
And she just genuine care for her. Really like that.
Yeah. And so when Chris leaves the room, she hears Reagan screaming, and then we see that her bed is jumping off the ground. She like goes around and jumps on the bed, and it's also shaking.
Jump around.
Yeah, and
Jump around.
that was because immediately the mom was just like she jumped there trying to help her out, like what's going on? And it's not one of those like, oh, you're just seeing things, honey. It's like no,
It's
immediately
when she
like
first believes.
and it's like oh, there's something like
That's one of the best parts.
and you got to think
that's all
though,
that's
like
good.
because I didn't realize that they weren't religious, and it's like oh yeah, in her head you're just like if you've never been religious and you're not a part of it, because like back then, if you're not religious, you're not gonna be exposed to it. Like how
Right.
even today, like you could still know about a chunk about religions no matter what. You would just be like, what was that?
Yeah.
So then we cut to Father Tom. He visits Father Karras. They have a drink together. Karras is beating himself up over his mother. Then he has a little dream. We see the necklace from earlier in the movie in Iraq. He sees his mother and he chases after her. And then we see the first flash of the demon face.
Yeah.
So the demon obviously like was messing with him because I guess you could say that makes sense now. It's like, oh, the demon was messing with him because it's like a loss of faith type of
Yeah.
thing.
I'm assuming there's really isn't that much explanation. Like, I had trouble piecing together why the demon would be, unless it's like this, the demon knows that eventually a father's gonna come and it's probably gonna be this one. I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, demons like what's that whole like thing they say of like who's worse to take? A priest who's having his faith questioned or an innocent child?
Yeah.
He's just got easy pickings there.
They also said that he was the best that they had. So like even though I think they're trying to say that even though he thinks he's losing his faith, like it's still kind of a part of him in a big way.
Well, he's a good psychiatrist too, and like he's not like he's not one of those people of like a psychiatrist and priest. He's not immediately like it's devil possession. He's like, no, I've seen a lot of stuff in my time, and I know it's a lot of the mind because he seems to
Right.
take like I'm a father to help people with that, but I'm also psychiatrist first.
And then straight from the dream, we snap cut to Raymond. Raymond. Everybody loves Raymond. Snap cut to Reagan screaming and calling a doctor a fucking bastard. And then we immediately go back to Karras doing a
Oh,
sermon.
that's because
That's
well, there's also scene because like the other part of like how they were doing they did like, well, we're gonna do like a brain scan on her, and then like, because that was in the same scene. Because then you have that scene, they're reading the results.
No, not yet. It's a little later.
Where am I?
Yeah, no, it's because at this point there's a lot of like quick scene jump, quick scene, quick scene, quick scene. Because then it's back to Karras. He does a sermon. It's just like a little like short, like 30 seconds scene. And then Chris is now being told by a doctor that Reagan has an issue with her temporal lobe. He thinks that the shaking of the bed was due to spasm. She's like, dude, the bed was shaking. I was on the bed. Right. It wasn't her.
The doctor's like, no, sweetie.
And the doctor's like, the
problem, you're a woman. Well, you don't know what you're talking about.
He has this line where it's like, the problem is with your daughter, not her bed.
Right.
And I was like, are you listening to what he's saying? Well, it's because they're coming from a side of medicine and being like, look, it's like, I don't know what was wrong with your bed, but your daughter's obviously sick.
Yeah, it's just one of those, like, I can understand the doctor's like, look, you're over-exaggerating because you're a parent. You're going to think that. But still, it's like, you can see her sit there and think like, well, maybe.
Well, she's like, am I crazy? Am I seeing, like, was it not that bad? Am I a crazy person? We learned that she has a lesion on her brain. They're gonna have to do an operation. We cut to Reagan
carotid angiography.
Yeah, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Dude. So do you have to be? You're not awake for that, are you?
Apparently, in the 70s, you are.
Because like I was like
that looked fucked up.
This is honestly, this was
one
of the
scene because I felt so bad for her.
This is one of the two scenes where I'm like, oh God, like putting the thing in your neck.
Just shooting it out.
Yeah, and then like, and she's just sitting there, and I was like, I could feel it.
And then the loud noises start happening.
Good old MRI machines, how they used to be, sounding like
it's so uncomfortable and painful looking. It just looked awful. But we learned that they don't find any lesions on her brain. Chris calls. Like the two doctors are talking, and it's like one of the doctors like, you should see her. And then they get a phone call from Chris at the same time, and the two doctors, they go to visit her house. Reagan is being flung around on the bed. It's like crazy. She's like, and this is where Linda Blair hurt herself. And this is where she's obviously possessed. She's like, fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
or was that
so crazy. And and all this was done by the stunt double.
This sow was mine.
Yeah. And the doctors, they get her.
Lick me, Mom.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
And like,
that's
her face.
That was later. I didn't know that was in the regular, and I was like, even still now, I could see why people would be like, oh my, wow.
That's the most controversial part of the movie.
I'm sorry.
So it's like she's slapping the doctors. The doctors, they finally get her sedated. The doctors say that she is able to do all this because of her brain. Like, it's the whole
car mother thing.
Which
like,
I meant to look it up. Did this ever actually happen?
Oh, yes, it does. So I've looked into that. We all like...
we always say it, but I've never seen it.
It's a thing we have where we...
It's adrenaline.
Yeah, you are limited on what you can do.
Right, your brain kind of limits you.
Yeah, because it's like if you go too far, you'll do it. Like if you probably look up that woman who did that, her muscles she probably tore because you went past your limit that what they can do.
It's the same reason why you can't like tickle yourself or like break your own bones. Like it takes a lot to like try
mentally
to
do that. Like I read something about how like like when you eat a carrot, that's how all it would take for you to bite your finger off too.
Yeah. And so like Chris, she's just getting more upset. It's like she's getting pissed because they're just like, it's her brain. She's like, look at her. She's a different person. This isn't Reagan. She's like, she must have split personalities. And the doctor's like, well, actually, that's very uncommon.
Which is funny because I feel like after Split came out, that rose up too.
Yeah. And so they decided to do another X-ray. It's even crazier thing. It's like just off the hinges spinning.
It will require another spinal tap, which spinal taps are not pleasant. And
we
it's
call
like
this one the torpedo.
And it's so funny because like you could tell the demon's like, here we go. And it's weakening her even more.
Yeah, because every time we see her, she looks worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and it's like she's not getting sleep. She's getting these tests run on her.
And then it's like, this test is negative, and the doctor's like, you just need to see a psychiatrist. And it's like, oh, have we not been doing this?
Well, they all act like trying to like, psychiatry is not something we should go through. This is just...
It's the last resort.
Yeah, and I was like, I get that, but don't they bring... I don't know, maybe it was different then, but shouldn't they, like, for someone's like, this is definitely something we need to bring a psychiatrist in immediately.
Yeah. And so Chris comes home, and there's a lot of commotion. She comes in, like, there's, like, people standing outside at the end of like the stairs and stuff, and there's cops She comes home, her lights are flickering, the phone's ringing, but no one's on it. She goes to Reagan's room and the window's wide open. You see like her breath and everything. It's super cold in there. We hear sirens outside of the window. Chris is yelling at the babysitters, like, where have you been? She's like, Burke was supposed to be watching her. It's like, that might not have been a good idea.
Yeah,
you're right.
At all.
Yeah, bring the drunk over to watch. And then a guy comes in and tells Chris that Burke is dead and he fell down the stairs outside. Then Chris breaks down. Now, we watched the Max version. It does not have the spider walking scene. That was cut out because I guess William Friedkin said it happened too soon. It's too scary. It's like it needed to progress a little bit further.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So if you're someone who watched the uncut version,
it is a great scene. I recommend watching the uncut one.
That is why we're not really talking. I just wanted to bring it up for the people that watch the unrated.
I want to take
version.
a moment to talk about Burke.
Yes.
Before at the party when they sent him home, he was drunk as he could not stand up,
and he didn't fall down the stairs. Then
and he didn't fall.
Well,
down
he
the
wasn't
stairs,
near those stairs.
What I'm saying is that when they took him to the door. And they're like, your car's on down the street. Or
around the corner.
They're like, I hope it gets home.
Yeah,
This guy...
I was like, they didn't care about him. I was sitting here like, he is obviously gone. You should be walking him to the car.
I wish it cut to a scene of like her leaving her house the next day and he's just like in front of the door sleeping.
And that taxi sitting out there is just, I'm waiting. I'm getting paid.
He made it 2 steps and didn't make it. So then we cut to Reagan is with the psychiatrist. She's starting to look really rough. He's trying to she's talking to her and he's like wanting to get inside, like to talk to Captain Howdy, who's inside her. He gets Captain Howdy to come out. She starts growling. Everyone starts covering their nose. And then she grabs the psychiatrist's balls.
You understand why they were doing that? Because I was like, oh, that's something you don't see a lot of.
Because the smell of the demon, right?
Well, like, sulfur, brimstone, that stuff stinks. I was like, oh, that's a cool thing to see about that. Because
or they can't brush her teeth. And she just has really bad breath, maybe.
She just looks
I'm just kidding. No, you're right.
It's probably one of those jokes of like,
it's definitely sulfur.
She let a fart out and it just smells like hell.
It's probably what happened in Scary Movie too. So we cut to Karis running. We see that there's a man watching him, Lieutenant Kinderman. He is investigating what happened to Burke. Kinderman thinks that maybe the desecration of the church. I didn't even put the desecration of the church in my notes.
I don't know if there's something different in the uncut scene because I was like, it's one of those cuts again that happens so quickly to like the Mary statue. Is it Mary?
Something like that, yeah.
Like
in the
pointy,
church.
Like they gave it like a huge schlong and pointed tits, and he's just like,
I missed that completely.
Well, it was so quick, and I was like, there's supposed to be more here.
Well, it's just like, because there's kind of a long scene where you're just like, okay, this guy's just walking inside this church, and then you see it, and it's like, oh, and then cut.
Well, I mean, at that time, everyone would also think, oh, you desecrated something very sacred.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, they think the desecration of the church might have something to do with Burke because it turns out Burke's head was completely turned around when he fell down the stairs. He wants Karis to tell him about any patients that he think was sick enough to do this, but he's like, I'm not going to tell you what my patients did. And it's like, and then he's just kind of threatening him, and then when that doesn't work, he tries to bribe him, and then eventually he just insults him.
That detective guy.
I really like this scene though. I like they obviously know that. Like they're both playing with each other essentially.
It was.
I do hate that they do have a lot of this conversation next to a tennis court.
Yeah,
I was like,
it takes the seriousness a little bit.
I kept watching the tennis players, and I was like, "There's a scene happening."
What was because even my girlfriend, she was like, "Was this before HIPAA?" And I was like, "No," but because they said. He said it's like a priest or whoever got in trouble for not telling the police
in California. Yeah.
Well, I was like, oh well, no, like psychiatrists now, like if you say like you have suicidal thoughts, they have to hold you immediately for 24 hours. If you think about killing someone,
doctor and patient can.
They're supposed to report it, saying like because you can be a threat to somebody else or yourself.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So we cut to Chris is visiting a room full of doctors. They think that Reagan believes she is being possessed. Something like an alien in her brain or something like that.
Yes.
They tell her that she should have an exorcism because he sees it as shock treatment. They think that since she believes she's being possessed, that an exorcism would remove the delusion. And then the mom's like, "You're telling me I should take my daughter to a witch doctor? Is that it?" It's like, could you imagine going to a doctor and then they're like, "You should maybe try exorcism." Like, are you freaking
To be fair, their reasoning is sound because they're like, it's to play into her delusion to break her out of it.
Yeah, it's like a mental.
Yeah, I did like how
she said like 88 doctors have messed with me, and there is like 10, 12 doctors in, and they all cannot figure it out. So I was like, yeah, like we've exhausted our routes. We think it could be this.
It's like all we can do is just keep running that crazy test on her.
Well, I was sitting here thinking, like, man, you could tell this is back in the day because immediately she'd be like, well, I can't afford these tests. You know, my daughter's just going to be possessed. Let's immediately get to the free option.
Yeah.
I love the idea of all these doctors before medicine got good. They're just sitting around going, did you try the ear nail? No. How about a pint of whiskey?
Yeah.
Well, we're out.
Did you try some like lobotomy? That might fix her issue.
I thought that's where they were going to go with it.
I mean,
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, if this movie was made like 20 years earlier, then yeah, probably.
It wouldn't have been that far because lobotomies, they said, your wife is not happy staying at home all day, being a homemaker, not getting anything to do with her own life. Yeah, she's nuts. We need to stick that spike in her brain.
Yeah, what if we hammered a spike in her eye?
That'll make her completely docile. She'll be back to normal.
Genius.
So we cut to them bringing Reagan home. We see Kinderman at the bottom of the steps. Then it's cutting to laying Reagan down. Chris finds a cross under the pillow.
So
Kinderman finds. Oh, go ahead.
sorry. The detective. You're talking about that scene where he goes and looks at the bottom of the steps.
Yeah, he's at the steps and then he finds the.
He finds that
sculpture.
thing. How would who are these other cops who did not? Because that would still be a crime scene that's getting looked at.
Well,
They would have found that.
They think that he's just drunk. I guess he's known for being a drunk. Obviously, I guess.
I'm wondering if they did blood tests back then.
Or maybe they just
Because they check your blood to see. It's like, oh, his blood alcohol level would have been like through the roof.
Yeah, they probably had that back then.
Yeah. I don't know. He
really
just got
sure.
lucky, I guess. Maybe, I don't know.
He found that one little thing down there, which another thing happens like immediately. So keep going.
Yeah. So Chris is questioning the staff about the cross. They all say, no, we didn't put it there. And then Kinderman visits Chris's house at the top of the steps because we learned that this is where the steps almost immediately lead up to the house. He is questioning Chris, asking if Burke was in Reagan's room. She's like, nah, dog. He is making
Nada.
he's making the assumption that maybe Reagan did it without coming out and saying it. Like that's the feeling I'm getting from him.
Well,
it's a very tense scene.
In the scene, he's like, "Oh yeah," he sees her art, her paintings and stuff, and he hands her, he's like, "Oh, I'm assuming your daughter's daughter." And mom looks at it, it's like, "Oh yeah, this is one of her things," and that's where he connects to that.
Yeah.
But I also was like, this guy just found evidence that would link the girl to it, and he just gave it to the mother. It's like, no.
No, he picked up something that was already in the house. He's like, oh, did your daughter make this? It wasn't the same statue that he
Was it
found.
not?
No, it was sitting on the counter that he picked up.
Oh, okay.
I like the scene because like the mom is obviously getting more and more nervous when she's like carrying around the like coffee
Tea, whatever
tea
it was.
thing. Just like she's shaking, and you see on her face, she's like, stop shaking. It's such a good performance.
She's got to
Like,
turn into, like, at the end of the scene, too, when he, like, leaves, because he asks for an autograph.
Yeah.
And like she's like, oh yeah, cool. And the second the door shuts, she just breaks down. It's like, that's good. It's like she turned on her actor part of it, of like how she's playing an actress in this.
Yeah, sweet.
And she just shuts the door and she just immediately is like, oh no, what did my daughter do?
Yeah. And so Kinderman wants Chris to ask Reagan when she wakes up, like, was anybody in there? And she's like, I don't think she's gonna probably answer that question because she's possessed. And after Kinderman leaves, Reagan starts acting up. The demon has her now. We see stuff flying all over the room.
Immediately after,
That's cool.
This house has the best soundproofing ever because, like, in the earlier party, she's like, "Oh, Reagan, go to sleep." You don't hear those people down there screaming, singing. And then this house is getting stuff thrown around. That guy didn't hear that at all and go back and look.
Yeah. And so this is where we get the insane scene. So the stuff is flying across the room. She's stabbing herself in her private parts.
Right in the pussy.
She's like, let Jesus fuck you.
Oh my God, that was that. I forgot because I forgot fully the scene, and I was just like, I'm so shocked by it. Like, because you imagine you're sitting there so shocked by that because like she's sitting there stabbing herself with that cross.
As a mom, I'd have a mental breakdown.
And then like
and then shoving the mom's
it says
face
lick
into her
me. I was like,
private
oh my
parts.
God, this scene just gets worse and worse. If you could have like back in the day just have like video of like audience reaction of first seeing that and what you could have seen with them, I would just love to see like those reactions of people.
I know. It's like whenever they make a horror movie now, they always have like the black and white video of the people in theaters watching it. It'd just be people like.
How many people would have ran out? So like, oh my God.
And then Reagan turns her head all the way around after she like pushes the thing. She's forcing the door closed with like her
And
mind,
that's where she had her back
moving this
broken.
stuff, and then it's like Reagan just is lying. He does a weird voice for it. Do you know what she did? Your cunting daughter.
And I was sitting here like, no, what did she do to deserve this?
Yeah, I mean, I just assume it's
I read
Ouija.
a cool fact about the voice actor for the demon. She gave up sobriety, started drinking heavily and smoking heavily to get the right voice for this.
Yeah.
It's like that. I like this.
Yeah,
It's also funny because like the voice is not like your typical.
I'm going to take you over.
Well, so Freakin said that they wanted a gender neutral voice for it because they wanted it to not sound like a woman or exactly
sounded
sound
like
like a
both at
guy.
times.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
So Chris and Karis are meeting. He meets in like non-priest clothes, and she's like, "Oh, please leave me alone." It's like, "Oh, I'm actually the guy. I just didn't wear my thing." She's like, "Well, you should have told me." I just thought it was a little funny
Well, she
interaction.
did say like, "Oh, I'm sorry." She did apologize, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
No, it's
Because
just like-
she did just get slapped in the face by her daughter,
Yeah,
and
she's got the
there's
glasses
a lot
on.
that just happened in that scene that she's just like, "Oh, this is not just
Yeah.
a simple."
And she wants to know how you go about getting an exorcism. Karis is pushing back. He doesn't think exorcisms are real. He's like, no one knows how to do this anymore. No one does it except for the Catholic Church. Chris confesses that it was Reagan is the one that needs it, and he explains the church has to investigate the situation. It'll probably make it worse. And so
I'm
that's
sure
why
that
he's not
never
wanting
happened.
to do it. He really wants her to see a doctor, but she has seen them all. And Karis goes to, he confesses that Chris confesses that Reagan is the one that killed Burke in the scene.
To get him to like come, it's like, "Can you please look?" It's like, "No, it's not approved by the church."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, my daughter killed
It's
someone.
like, please.
Please."
And then Karis goes to visit Reagan. Reagan's looking just straight up like a demon now.
I love how he walks in. He's just not me like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely not normal," because like her face is just, and
She
I was
looks like a
even,
monster now.
yeah, I was like, even
Yeah,
if she's
so
like,
it's
"Well,
fucked up.
people do self-harm to themselves," like, that's cool, man. Her eyes are green.
Yeah. It's like, what'd she put in her eyes? I mean, I guess she vomited in her eyes. So Reagan looks terrible. The demon wants the straps loose. He's just kind of having some banter with the demon. He asks who the demon is, and it's like, I'm the devil.
I do like that he tries to test it, like, do these things. What's this? You should know this, right?
Yeah.
And like, even in that moment, I'm just like, I could see like he's doing the proper things of like, well, if you can do these things, you can. And it seems like the demon can't still do
But
certain things.
I don't think it's got full power yet. But also, he should know it's like because Reagan starts talking like the homeless man.
Right.
'Cause
Oh, yeah.
he says is like, I used to be an altar boy, and like she says that, and she asks if he would like to speak with his mother, and then she vomits on his face. So fun fact,
Ew.
that vomit was supposed to hit his chest, but the tube that they had was too powerful and hit him in the face. So his reaction when he looks pissed off, he was actually
was-
super pissed
I
off.
would
know
be too.
those little scenes. It's like, oh, it's supposed to hit here and have something else happens. Like, they always work out
Apparently,
so
it
well.
was super unpleasant thing to have in your eyes and face.
That was supposed to be semen.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. So Kara says he is only scared of making the situation worse. He's telling this to Chris. He says he would need evidence that the church would accept as demonic possession, like speaking another language he never heard. He explains there are no experts in exorcisms, and essentially, like, Chris knows as much about exorcisms as most priests do. He explains that the best thing for her is a hospital. Chris says, obviously, that is not Reagan anymore. Do you not see that?
Well,
And
I don't think he's not fully believing her. He's like, there's something happening, but he's like,
Yeah.
I have to have proof for the church to get involved. And back then, you don't have cell phones, so it's like, yeah, I need to get proof.
Yeah. And then as Karis is leaving, he asks if Reagan knew about him, anything about him. And he's like, no. And it's like, she know my mother died? And she's like, Chris is no. He's like, okay, well, whatever. We'll see you later.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's just-
excuse me? What does that mean?
it's a
I
trickle
think-
down demonics.
I think he tries to think to himself, like, oh, she must have let it slip. She was
Yeah.
lying
He's
to me.
just, he's trying to find like a rational explanation. So we cut to him. He's performing a communion on himself. And then we get the best line ever. What an excellent day for an exorcism. And he's like, oh, would you like that? It's like, that demon's like, it would bring us closer together. And it's like, you and Reagan? It's like, no, me and you. So
Oh,
I think the demon wants a priest. And so
Boy's like, you're losing your faith. That's another one I can take.
yeah, it's like, oh, out of all the priests
that's a
here, you're the
tastier
easiest
bite, I
target.
guess.
So maybe like the demon was kind of leading the priest to
It was
Reagan,
gonna
maybe?
get somebody. It's like all these souls I can take.
Yeah. And so Reagan begins talking in Latin. He starts recording. He throws holy water on her. We start to hear a bunch of different voices, but it all sounds nonsensical. And then so Karis goes downstairs, tell her that she should tell the father, or it's like, where's the father? It's like, oh, he's in Italy or whatever. And he's like, should I tell him? And he's like,
so you're single.
he's like,
I am losing my faith. About to have this collar come off.
and then like this is where we start seeing like, oh, Karis is like, you need to tell the father this is serious now. Like it's time to go. Oh, and we also see him throw holy water on it, and he tells Chris that like I threw water on Reagan, but it was tap water, not holy water. And he's like, so what does that mean? It's like, well, holy water is blessed. And it's like
And-
this is gonna make it harder to have an exorcism. And
Holy
Oh,
water
this
isn't
is
kept in a square little tube. It's in
My-
a round like hand grenade.
my bad. This is actually where Chris confesses that she killed Burke. That's my bad. And this is what's leading to Karis to be like, okay, let's do this. And then he's getting the recording analyzed. The guy's like, oh, it is English, but it's in reverse. And then we start hearing a bunch of creepy voices, which is so good. I love this
I
part.
love that part.
Yeah, it was cool.
And then you also kind of hear the mother's voice.
And he's like replaying. I think in the director's cut, you get a little bit more of that scene, but it as like even when you're listening to it, because since I was aware something was gonna happen, I was like, I heard like the mother's voice in it, and I was like, dude, how do you like not when you play that in reverse? And because you could see him like sitting here like looking, he's like, I heard my mother's voice, like her exact voice.
Karis is called to Chris's house. It was the babysitter that called him, and wants them to see Reagan. And we see that slowly, like from inside of Reagan, essentially, like "Help me" is being written on her stomach,
Yeah.
and now we believe.
That was I like that scene because
That's
it's
a
just
really good
cool.
part.
it's like
so
you
cool.
can see it's more that like internal dynamic of she's fighting with her soul and
Yeah.
she's
Yeah,
trying and
hell
she's like
yeah.
even she's trying to like get out, let me out.
So he goes and tries to get the church approval. He wants to do the exorcism himself, but they want someone more experienced. The church decides that he can assist with the exorcism, but they want to get Father Marion to do it, who is in Woodstock working on a book.
I don't know why that makes it feel. He's in Woodstock, man. He's like, I need some drugs, and I know this would be the place to go.
Boyd is straight up on acid. We hear that he did like a 12-month or 12-day
So it took
exorcism.
several months for
Yeah.
his that exorcism he did.
And
Shit.
then, so we see that there's like some kid goes and gets the father, and then we cut to the most iconic shot in the movie, where we see the father in front of the house and the light coming, and then it cuts to Reagan's eyes.
Yeah.
That's
And like
Reagan's,
like I know you're here.
yeah,
That's
and then
sweet.
Karis, Marin comes in, he's introducing, him and Karis meet, and then we hear Reagan screaming. And Marion
You
tells
didn't tell me it was a girl.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to fuck this demon out if I can't get hard?
Jesus Christ.
It has to be a
Jason.
little altar boy.
Oh my God. It's like every episode
This
with
is
you over
gonna
there.
be difficult.
So Marion tells Karis to get supplies. He also tells him not to pay attention to what the demon says and try not to interact with it. And then Karis is like, do you want any information about it? It's like, there's 3 personalities inside. And he's like, snaps back, there's only one. It's Neo. And then it's exorcism time, baby.
Hell yeah.
This
Prime
rips.
time.
I feel like with this exorcism thing,
So
because like
much
if you go back
profanity.
to like if you go to like other movies, the exorcism thing is like like this long kind of drawn out thing. Now this one's just like straight to the point. This is like the end game right
Yeah.
here.
We're in the end game now. That's what the devil's saying. We're in the end game now.
I see what's gonna happen in the future.
And I love this because everything that we think exorcisms are comes from this right here.
Hell yeah.
Realistic. I was reading up, and I was listening to a few podcasts about exorcisms, and really, it's just they just like the Catholic Church will send a priest. They examine the person that might need the exorcism. They have psychiatrists look at the person, and then it's like they decide. It's like it takes months to do. If they decide that the person needs an exorcism, they do it, and essentially, it's just like they pray over them, put some holy water on them, and then that's it. There's
Okay.
none of this.
No
Oh, man.
sensationalization.
Yeah. So Marion begins the exorcism. A lot of tongue fluttering from Reagan. Reagan becomes more and more riled up. your mother sucks cock in hell. Your breath is slime.
I mean,
Fucking metal.
he told
man.
him not. Like, I feel like he should have said, like, "Oh, it'll try and tell lies, huh?" Well, my mom just died.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the demon knows that Karis is the weak link here. And as the father talks, the bed starts shaking and eventually floating up in the air.
Fucking cool.
And like Karis is like, oh,
Oh. Shit.
oh,
This is real.
Zoinks.
Zoinks.
Yeah, yo.
I still love the scene of like they're all in there, and it's just seeing their breath. It was a good choice. I think it
Oh,
works
so
to just add
cool.
attention to it,
It's
and like
so
her
good.
breathing, just like she's like, I feel like with her because she did such a good job of like her breath is so much more.
So much bigger,
Mhm.
yeah. And so while Raymond, God, while Reagan is screaming, we see the demon's face flash on screen again. Reagan begins excreting vomit from her mouth. Father Marion seems like he's starting to struggle. He's like starting to cough. It's like, I cast you out.
Spits in his eye.
The roof starts the roof starts to crack.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens there in that scene. That's just like,
Right.
man, you did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Reagan turns her head 360 degrees.
That was cool. That was fucking sweet.
Then we start to see the demon's face over Reagan. The
Oh,
straps
man, that
on
was so
Reagan starts to break, and Reagan's just like floating up. And this is where we get
Oh,
the power of Christ
Christ
compels
yeah,
you.
dude.
Then she slowly
Ugh.
starts flying back down. Karis goes to tie her hands up and her feet together. Then she double axe handles them on the
Well,
back,
yeah.
which is her finishing move in wrestling
I
because
know.
Karis is like, ugh.
I was thinking
I
about
got
this.
double axe handed. I can barely move.
What if there was a Catholic priest wrestler and he comes out, he's got like the body breaker, you know, like he's breaking the bread,
Yeah.
like the fucking crucifix.
He does the double axe handle. It's his finishing move, and it's like called Power of Christ Compels.
Yeah, so like I could see him sitting there laying on as they lay on the mat. He just goes over him like doing the little rights thing
Yes.
for him.
Oh, that'd be perfect. It's like his finisher was an elbow drop, and then like he just drops
Hell
the elbow
yeah.
after doing that on the turnbuckle.
I would watch
He
the
jumps off the
shit out
ropes
of
like
that.
this. Keep posing.
Yes.
And then like Marin continues performing. There's a giant shake of the house, and it knocks him down. We see a shot of Reagan kneeling. It's this dope shot where she's got like her arms spread, and we see the statue of Pazuzu. Like it
its
appears in the
cock.
room. Yeah. And
I forgot the guy.
Karis is acting like you just got the crap beat out of him. And
Well,
then
it's a lot. It drains your soul.
they stop the exorcism. He's like, we'll start again after we rest. And it's like, oh, I didn't know this was going to be like a 2-parter exorcism. So they're all outside the room. Marin goes to take his pills. He's looking super rough. Guy's probably not going to die soon. Karis, he goes to check on Reagan and sees his mother instead. It's this really cool shot where she's on the bed. It's really creepy. She begins to talk in the voice of his mother. Why
Why you do this to me?
I love Maris though. He's so badass. Like he just shows up kind of like the wolf from
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction. He's just like, I know exactly what
I
to
know.
do.
Get out. I know what I'm doing.
Hell yeah.
Well, to be fair,
So
like they weren't
cool.
even starting. He was just checking on her.
Yeah.
And like,
He's just gonna wipe her face and stuff.
and he's just like, stop talking about my mother.
And
then-
And he
Yeah.
doesn't give him any chance to be like, I understand what you're talking about. Your mother just died. He's like, no, get out.
Well, I mean, also just from as soon as Maris showed up, he's like, I need this shit, which was stuff I'd never even heard of. I'm like,
Yeah.
some-
So, and then Marin walks in behind, and he's like, we find out Reagan's heart's about to fail. She's essentially going to die from this demon. The demon is getting to Karis. Marin tells him to go. And then Marin begins to do the exorcism by himself. We cut to Karis and Chris downstairs. Chris is asked if it's over, and then eventually he's like, no. It's like, is she going to die? And he's like, no. And that's when he's like, I'm going upstairs and I'm doing this. We hear the doorbell ring. We see it's Kinderman, who's just been watching throughout the film, like as the priest has been going up there. Karis sees that Marin is dead. Real.
Is there a
Yep.
deleted scene from this? Because like,
I couldn't remember. I was like,
It moves really fast. At
Okay.
this point.
I don't remember if the uncut version shows like more to it, but
what
I
about
was
how
just,
he died, or
and I
just
was-
kind of
yeah, I don't know. I was like, man, it sucks not seeing it, but I'm also like, man, what a move just to come back and like the main guy is just dead.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, this guy, I thought he was gonna make it. And so, like, we see the demons, or Marion's dead, and you just got Reagan like posted up, just like,
Yeah, I know, that was so
did I
funny.
do that?
He's such a stinker.
It was just like, oh, you came back in here, you stupid.
And Karis is like, well, you know what? I'm a goddamn boxer,
Hell
baby.
yeah.
Just starts
I love
like,
Right
this.
there, he starts punching the kids.
Uppercut,
I'm not gonna
jab,
let her
jab.
die. A freaking like 30-year-old man, just like
That
who
was
knows how to
so
punch. Is just,
great.
I'm sure this won't stop her heart.
you can take this punch. You're a demon.
And then he's like welcoming the demon into. Sorry, that's my dog, guys. If you're hearing that.
What is it?
Karis is essentially like the only way to stop this is if I let the demon inside of me and at least save this girl. And she's like, get inside me. The demon's wanting to, pulls the necklace off of him, and the demon jumps in him. But before, and then we also hear Reagan's normal voice again. But before the demon can take full control, he's just like yeets out of the window and he kills himself. And I'm assuming if you die, the demon dies with you.
Well, it doesn't have like it needs to go to like another host.
Yeah, and I'm assuming just dragged Karis to hell, I'd assume. Chris and Reagan embrace. Kinderman's like, duh, hell just happened. Father Tom comes up, and this is like
Where was he the whole time? Like you see him in the party, and then after that, that's like it.
I don't think he approved of any of this, I'm assuming. But this part was kind of one of the parts that really got me because he's going to Karis, and it's like, do you want to make a confession? Are you sorry?
Oh yeah.
Please, because like to him, it's like if he doesn't say this, like.
He
Well,
goes
it's like
to hell.
absolving him of all of his sins, so
Because-
just in case he could, like, because if you absolve all your sins, you go to he's more likely to go. Like, if I could help
But
relieve his soul, or
I feel like in this world, like he should not go to hell, right? Karis, I mean,
No.
he saved
No, I
this
don't-
little kid. I would assume he probably makes it to heaven, even
Yeah.
if he didn't confess out loud. I'm sure he's like, I believed now. Trust me.
Yeah.
I made an ultimate sacrifice. I think I get to go to heaven.
I think just to him, it looks like he just committed suicide. Maybe.
Yeah,
well,
maybe.
he did. I guess he did. That is a sin, but he did it in a better way. If not, like he's like, I did it to save someone,
Yeah.
Right, but
It,
yeah,
it
he
was
may not
it was a
know.
murder suicide. He murdered the demon and killed himself.
so it couldn't get to anybody
It was
else.
fucking sweet though.
Yeah. Yeet. So Chris and Reagan, I already said all that. We cut
Chris
to
is like, I gotta replace this window again.
yeah. She's just like, you know what?
I
Maybe
put bars on it.
I don't
maybe.
want to replace the window. I guess I'm just gonna move.
Wait, wasn't there plywood over that window, or is that later in the movie?
It was at the end.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there was.
So the family's moving. The babysitter and Chris are saying their goodbyes. The babysitter hands the necklace to Chris that Karis was wearing. Father Tom is outside. They talk to each other. Chris is revealing that Reagan doesn't remember any of it. And then, but Reagan comes out and gives the father a hug and kiss. So I'm thinking she might remember something.
Well, she like the way they shoot it, she sees the collar, and it's just kind of like one of those like, oh, she did. It could be like
it is real.
it could be like she sees it as like that, like you see it in your head, like something that's gonna save you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then
A little
we
awkward though. She gave him a kiss on the cheek though.
Yeah.
I was kind of looked over at girlfriend and both like, that was weird. Especially I was just like, I think it's just weird because it's also a priest and
Well,
just,
I think it was a family
She
friend.
gets
I think it wasn't. It's not as weird because like it seems like he was probably around a lot, just at parties and stuff. So maybe
Mm.
it was his family friend. So it might not be that weird. And then Chris gives the father the necklace. Might have wanted to keep that for your daughter.
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
wants it all because like I could see her giving it. It's like, oh, I thought you would want to have this because it's like it'd be better because it's like I don't want my daughter to see it and then like it triggered and all of a sudden
She's like, I'm going to L.A. I'm out of Washington, where the crazies are. And then that's the movie.
Yeah.
Movie
sweet.
rips.
It was so cool.
So
I think
yeah.
it held up pretty good.
it still holds up.
Oh no, this movie. I don't know. I couldn't believe that. Like I went most of my life being like, oh, I know. I thought it was all right.
Too many parodies. Like my first interaction with the Exorcist movie is Scary Movie 2.
Scary movie too. Same.
Mine
Exact
was
same.
actually the movies in 30 seconds, but with bunnies.
I don't what.
It's like what the
It
hell
was like
is he
it
even
was like
talking
internet,
about?
like an internet thing.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Cartoon. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I just always think about that because Scary Movie 2 is just like, oh, this movie is to make fun of. Yeah,
So funny. I love
it
scary
is.
movies too.
And like, I love when he like goes in that, he kisses his cross in that cold room and it sticks to his lips.
Yeah.
And like, or at the beginning, he's sitting there, Father, please exorcise these demons.
Yeah. The first.
No,
two
that
scary
did. I
movies
don't
are
like
great.
that kind of humor, but it did make me laugh because it's like smug look over here. Yeah, it was still funny.
So we have our two categories. We're gonna start with the first one: the good, the bad, the ugly, the fine. The good is something that we liked about the movie. The bad is something that we don't like about the movie. The ugly, something that didn't age well. The fine, something that did age well. Dakota, Start off with the good.
The good, I just love that the movie doesn't feel like it falls into the typical tropes.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel like they're ignoring it.
It started it.
Yeah.
Or no, I mean, yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
I'm
You
an
see where
idiot.
you're wrong.
Well, I didn't see where you were going, and then you said something.
I just like how it, even for like, you see movies now, it's like, oh, this is going to have those classic tropes. This is where they get it from. It's like, no, these other movies have made it.
Even like the Conjuring movies, Insidious movies, they're always like, they don't really believe the kids yet. And
and
it always
it's this
takes a minute.
whole, and this
so
one is just like
obnoxious.
immediately, like, there's something wrong with it. Immediately taking her to the hospital, taking care of her,
I
making
like
sure
that.
everything is
That was
checked
cool.
out all right. And it's not a case of like, this is just this happening. It gets straight to the point a lot of times. Not a lot of this fanfare in between of like, I can't think of the movie, but I guess it's like a scene from Malignant where she goes in like to the old hospital to find out what this is. Like, there's no in between of like what it is. You're just like, this is what's happening to her. We're focusing on what's happening to her, not of more of the lore of what it could be.
Don't diss Malignant.
Look, I didn't like it at first, but now that I've
This is
realized
our
what it is,
Second straight episode talking about Malignant.
it's coming.
For everyone out there, it's a movie that I loved, and all my friends were like, "You liked this? It was so bad and stupid." And I was like, "That's what was cool."
Well, I went
about
into it
it
thinking I was like, oh, James Wan
I'm
did it.
Oprah.
It's gonna be like The Conjuring, very serious.
Yeah,
And then after, I absorbed it and I was like, okay, so this movie, it doesn't take itself too seriously. This is like a classic, like old over the top horrors movie, and
Well,
I've
I
learned
mean,
to like it more now.
if you look at, I mean, Saw's silly. What's the one with the puppets? I have asked this last week too.
Dead Silence.
Dead Silence.
I love that movie.
movie's so silly.
I love it. I don't like it's so good because ventriloquist's creepy.
That's a movie I just like. Every time we put it on in the house, like for some reason, like I either fall asleep or we start doing something else. I don't know. Jason, the good. What's like your favorite part of the movie?
I don't know. It's just,
Obviously, the demon statue dick.
Yeah. Love
No,
that.
I thought the child actress just crushed it. I
Nailed
think
it,
everybody
yeah.
really, I don't know. I can't really find anything bad about this movie.
Yeah.
so
That was
far.
very
Isn't-
hard because when you text me, I was like, the bad.
Yeah.
The bad.
So I guess for me, the good would just be, I don't know. It really is just the whole movie. It's not a bad movie. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Y'all said the two things I was gonna say.
No, it's all right. Well,
I guess
they also did a lot of cutting away and like the part where you don't remember her pushing Burke out the door because they cut that part out of this
yeah,
version of the movie.
Mhm.
yeah.
Maybe that's something that I would say.
Well, so I guess the good for me will just be
Like, what's your favorite scene?
making the. Oh, I mean, I don't even know what my favorite scene is. They're all rip. I'm just gonna say that my favorite part was the fact that everybody older than us thinks this is the scariest movie ever made. Natalie posted something on Facebook, or just like the eyes of Reagan, and like it's just like kind of like people in their like 50s and older that are like, why didn't you warn me you're gonna post this? You shouldn't be watching this. And it literally is just something that terrifies people of a
awesome.
certain generation. And it's like the whole movie's good. I don't know. I don't it's just
On that part,
literally
there,
changed people's lives.
Hell yeah.
I saw one thing that said his aunt was reading the book The Exorcist, and she couldn't read it all. And she said it was too much. It was terrible. So she was like out at the beach at the time when she was watching it, and she threw it into the water. She thought it was evil. Well, she told the nephew this, and he's like, so I went and bought a new copy, stuck it in the sink,
yeah.
let it all wet, and stuck it in her drawer where I know she would reach at night. And
Fuck
she was at the
yeah.
house, and she opened up that drawer and just screamed bloody mary. I was like,
That's
oh, that's such
awesome.
That's great.
I really like how subtly they changed the demon faces on the
Oh,
people's
yeah.
faces.
Yeah, that was really
cool.
good. Yeah, just the whole movie, the directing, the acting, I
All
don't
the
know.
movie stuff
Just
they
the
did.
performance. Since you mentioned Linda Blair, I'll mention Chris's character. She's just, I don't know. Watching it, I was just like, oh man, I'm so stressed out for this mother. It's like whenever they go to do the exorcism for the first time, she's standing at the door and they close it, and it's just like the fear on her face.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this actress
She
is great.
cares. It's not like because sometimes they'll just like, oh, they're just up there already taking care of it, and the parents are now out of the front.
Yeah. She's like
The movie, the rest of it.
Cuts her in the bathroom
upstairs
reading
with two grown men. Don't
uh,
worry about it.
TV guide. Just like, wonder when this is over. So the bad, I'm gonna start with the bad since y'all took all
Sweet.
my other ones. The So, when we were talking about the movie, like the first 3 notes I did were like 30 minutes of the movie and
Yeah.
like 3 things happened. Like don't mind that it's slow, but there's like this one point where he's just walking and it just pans and then he walks away and it's like, okay, we could have cut that
Gotta
out.
let you know
we
he's
could
walking
have
a
just
lot.
we could have just cut a little bit of that out because I was like, I don't know what any of this does. Just put them in the car and have them drive to the place. So it's just a little slow at the beginning, and I don't really mind it, but like I could see younger generations just being like, well, this is boring.
Pulling out their phones,
Yeah.
TikTok-ins and stuff,
Yeah, but make sure you follow me on TikTok.
which is terrible.
All right, Jason, you go for the bad.
For the bad, it was the cutaway parts, like
Yeah.
that where you didn't understand. Also, not enough stone cocks.
Yeah, okay. I think that was on top of everybody's list,
Yeah.
actually. So you're
Definitely
right.
was mine.
Yeah,
And they never mentioned Pazuzu's name.
yeah. I guess it's gonna be in the later.
How are you gonna know who to worship?
I
That makes
guess
it more scary because it just like you don't know what it is.
I guess
it's
so.
Legion. Your go.
I am Legion.
I think I agree with Jason. Cutaways parts because there's a lot of scenes you're like, whoa, sudden change, and then also just don't like the pee scene. I don't know why. It just didn't add
Oh,
anything
yeah,
for me. It doesn't. I was just like,
sucks.
it takes me out of that moment of serious of like you're gonna die up there, and then just like
We
what?
look at
What?
we look at Dakota search history, and it's actually just all pee porn. All right, so the ugly, something that didn't age well. Altar boys, right? I think
guess.
we're.
Is that ever gonna get old though?
It's
Definitely those
always
older
old.
boys aren't.
It's like it just.
They
Not-
just stay the same age.
That's
right?
it's just I guess just
They
like
get older and I stay the same.
everything that's just come out about like Catholic Church stuff. It always now puts like the idea in your head anytime you watch a movie about like Catholic religion and stuff like that, and it's just such a bummer that becomes something we have to think about when you watch like an older movie like this. It's like, how do you make a movie like this now without having to address something like that?
I think my part of the Big Ugly is like what it did to her life afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Because everyone's saying, like priests are saying, she speaks to the devil and stuff. Even though she's just playing a role, all the security she had to have.
And in the back injury.
Oh
Yeah,
all the
too.
injuries too that she had, and
Yeah.
like it just
I'm sorry. To
No,
interrupt
keep
you.
going.
No.
Did you know that one of the X-ray technicians in the movie, that when they were doing the thing to her neck,
Yeah.
not the X-ray technician, but like his assistant was a serial killer.
I did
Oh,
read about that.
yeah.
Yes.
That was
That was
fucking
wild.
cool.
That was wild. All right, we gotta get this moving. We're almost 2 hours, guys.
All right,
Okay.
fine.
So something that aged well, I think just
the movie in general.
the movie in general.
Spookiness.
But also, I think what aged well is, like I was saying about the older generation being so scared of this movie. I mean, that's just proof how well this movie is aged.
Yeah, I just
Fucking
love
awesome.
And
seeing that.
Also, even it's an older movie, but if you put it side by side to like Conjuring or Conjuring 2, it's just
It still holds.
it holds up, and honestly, it's probably better.
Yeah.
Hell
Though the
yeah.
Crooked Man, Jason, don't pat my dog. Okay, we're on to our double feature portion. What do you have to recommend for a double feature, Jason?
Something nice and colorful and happy.
Yeah.
You're saying like a palate cleanser after it?
Yeah, like a good another like a Hocus Pocus. There's something happy.
That's
and
very
like,
funny because we
more
actually
fun.
watched that afterwards.
All right, Dakota, what's your double feature?
I would say like, what's a good like? I was trying to think on it, like what I would want for possession wise, and I guess I would think like The Conjuring 2 would probably be
Okay.
yeah.
more.
Yeah, that was gonna be mine.
Just
What would I want to do as a double feature? I didn't really think about it.
Just say the same thing. It's okay to like the same things.
I recommend The Conjuring 1.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so Dakota, thank you for joining.
man.
Oh,
That
thanks
was
for
fun.
having me.
If you want to follow us on our social medias, or if you want to listen to us on a different platform that you're listening to us on right now, you can follow our link tree. It's linktree/We Recommend Podcast. Also, I'd like to thank Joey Prosser for doing our intro and outro. You can follow him on X at Mr. Joey Prosser. And next week, you can come back because we're going to be doing The Descent.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Well,
Movie
that one.
rules. But yeah, so thanks for joining us. I've been Jesse.
I'm Jason.
I'm Dakota.
And this has been We Recommend. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.